the genius who exposed Konoha's dark secret. Please subscribe. Episode 71. Organize and go to battlefield. Gaining the cooperation of these 5 experimental subjects went surprisingly smoothly. Despite providing them with limited choices, Shiraishi wasn't particularly concerned about their individual thought processes. Their bodies had undergone transformation through natural energy infusion, rendering them akin to superhumans. The extension of their natural lifespans and a significant slowdown in aging would set them apart from ordinary individuals. To simplify, even at the age of 60, with attentive self-care, their physical capabilities wouldn't wane significantly, enabling them to continue working. Presently in their 20s, these 5 had more than 3 decades ahead of them to contribute. This was just the beginning, more individuals would join in the future. The potential of natural energy was astonishing. Although it was still less versatile than chakra, natural energy surpassed it substantially in terms of physical prowess. Mass-producing body-type ninjas on a grand scale was plausible, with these ninjas reaching Chunin-level competency after a few years of systematic training. While their fighting styles might be relatively straightforward and seem less sophisticated than typical Chunin, it was sufficient. The unique utility of natural energy lay in its adaptability, transforming even ordinary individuals. Shiraishi believed this was the most terrifying aspect of natural energy. Ninjas wielded power through chakra, but it was a power that didn't extend to making most individuals stronger. Only a select few reaped the greatest benefits. Natural energy was different, it could elevate the lower limit of human potential considerably. Without a comprehensive understanding of the upper limits due to a lack of comparable information, Shiraishi refrained from claiming that natural energy surpassed chakra's ceiling. However, on average, natural energy outperformed chakra. Intent on making the most of the abilities of these 5, Shiraishi didn't skimp on them. Physical training techniques, chakra refinement methods, and even some basic ninjutsu would be imparted. He wasn't concerned about the risks of exposing information. The natural energy within them hadn't been cultivated through conventional methods, it had been introduced via reagents, dramatically enhancing their physical attributes. This implied that they possessed the foundation to engage in physical skill training, although they couldn't naturally extract natural energy themselves. From the outset, Shiraishi had no intention of granting such abilities to his subordinates for usage. Perhaps in the future, but not at this stage. These 5 hadn't garnered enough trust from him. In light of this, he intended to leave special markings on them when they left after a month. Having hastily completed his laboratory tasks, Shiraishi consigned the 5 to their work. Satisfied, he emerged to the surface and returned to his quarters to rest. The following day, Shiraishi paid a visit to Ruri's room to discuss the matter of the 5 individuals. Establishing an organization? Ruri regarded Shiraishi with a quizzical gaze. Explaining his reasoning, Shiraishi stated, "Yes. It's an imperative plan. As my research expands, especially with my experiments involving the Sage mode, there's potential for uncontrollable accidents. You're well aware of the destructive potential of the Sage mode." Ruri nodded earnestly. She had first-hand experience of its repercussions. While the fortified underground laboratory could mitigate certain energy surges, it might still generate problems and draw attention if exposed to overpowering forces. Indeed, establishing an organization outside would allow us to conduct experiments when necessary. The village is too bustling, it's easy to attract unwanted attention, Shiraishi explained. Is that the only reason? Ruri questioned. Furthermore, your current relationship with a high-ranking figure in the village, it's far from harmonious. While Hokage assures that no further mishaps will occur, you can't truly believe such words, can you? In response, Ruri cast a scornful smirk. She held no faith in Hokage's promises. Formerly, there had been a change in the Hokage succession, yet now, it appeared some Uchiha clan members were overly naive. A pursuit of power rendered them disdainful of strategic considerations, leaving them vulnerable. Konoha wasn't the Konoha of old, and Uchiha wasn't the Uchiha of old either. Uchiha's contemporary might was attributed to the Sharingan's bloodline limit, not to individual prowess. Consequently, Uchiha's current prominence was because of the Sharingan, not individual ability. Given the situation, Hokage extended an alternative. Ruri could see the scroll of seals again and choose another ninjutsu. However, Ruri wasn't swayed by this generous offer. Had Shiraishi dissuaded Ruri from acting impulsively, and had she accepted Hokage's proposal and conditions, she might have reacted with greater fury. Ruri's nature didn't align with accepting mercy or charity. By agreeing to Hokage's proposal, the issue would be considered resolved, and neither party could reference it again. However, for Ruri, the matter wasn't over. Hokage's apology and compensation wouldn't clarify her thoughts. Instead, revenge at the core was the only solution. Shiraishi anticipated Ruri's decision. Revenge, not compensation, had always been her true motivation. An esteemed individual had once noted that, when thoughts aren't clear, one must strive to clarify them. For Ruri, this clarity wouldn't come from Hokage's apology and compensation. Only vengeance at its root would provide her the resolution she sought. At times, the fixation of power-hungry individuals was truly formidable. Absolutely, similar incidents could occur in the future without any guarantee. The dissemination of misleading information during missions emphasizes the necessity of establishing our own organization. Whether it involves gathering information or conducting other activities, the convenience would be considerable. Even creating a network of informants across the ninja world, discreetly cutting off the routes of external missions. I assume this would be of great interest to you. Both Shiraishi and Ruri now view the route as enemies, rather than allies. It's clear that the biased stance taken by Hokage is not convincing. Indeed, Ruri's curiosity was piqued by these ideas. Although she may not fully comprehend Shiraishi's motives, her desire for revenge against the route is evident. Another aspect is that aunt and uncle are often involved in business ventures, hiring other ninjas or samurai for protection. While these mercenary groups are well known, they prove unreliable during true crises. We can provide them with trustworthy protection personnel to avert such mishaps. Ruri nodded in agreement. Her parents, Uchiha Sosuke and Uchiha Miyoko, have indeed faced such predicaments. Shiraishi's discussion with Ruri revolves around the fact that she is trustworthy. Establishing trust could solve numerous challenges, and her substantial resources further bolster this. Recently, Shiraishi completed numerous challenging tasks, but the cumulative rewards amounted to only slightly over 1,000,000 taels. This sum is inadequate for establishing an organization capable of meeting his research needs, let alone Waves, which lacks sufficient funds. Food, clothing, shelter, transportation, and expansion costs would all necessitate substantial capital. Hearing Shiraishi talk about these things in front of her, Ruri just replied him lightly. Tell me, how much does it cost? Upon Ruri's inquiry regarding costs, Shiraishi hesitated and then cleared his throat. I'm not entirely knowledgeable about this area, but I estimate that the initial development phase would require an investment of hundreds of millions of ryo. Hence, it might be prudent to discuss such a significant financial commitment with aunt and uncle first. However, Ruri asserted, no, I can decide with the resources at hand. In the land of tea, I own several mines that could be sold or utilized. Shiraishi was taken aback by this revelation, unsure of how to proceed. Wait, you have mines? Why haven't I heard about this before? Shiraishi quickly inquired, surprised by this undisclosed asset. Ruri clarified, I didn't think it was something worth mentioning. Regardless, financing won't be an issue. After all, Konoha's annual military budget surpasses the amount required. Establishing an organization for intelligence gathering, research, and training personnel would demand a substantial budget in the billions. Though Shiraishi initially proposed the concept of an organization, he now saw Ruri as more adept at the organization's establishment. Shiraishi pondered and asked, have you considered where to establish this organization? It was crucial that the organization's base not be situated within the territories of the 5 major nations. These nations possessed significant power and would not permit unregulated entities to operate freely within their borders. Any such organization established in these nations would undoubtedly invite a swift and devastating response. Given this reality, the only viable course of action was to operate from smaller nations. Between the land of iron and the land of ghosts, which do you believe is more suitable? Shiraishi questioned, considering the options. A neutral country? While both the land of iron and the land of ghosts were relatively small, they could not be deemed major powers, of which there were only 5 in the ninja world. However, not all smaller nations were considered neutral. Countries like the land of rain, the land of rivers, the land of grass, and even the land of whirlpools, destroyed a few years prior, could all be vulnerable to attack by larger nations. Thus, among these smaller nations, the land of ghosts and the land of iron stood out as potential options, both possessing unique attributes. Of particular interest was the land of ghosts, a mysterious and unknown country. This nation's ruler was not a daimyo, but rather a figure known as a witch. It adhered to a belief in witches and exhibited a mystical nature. Ruri had heard rumors that the land of ghosts ruler, Miko-sama, possessed extraordinary powers, including the ability to foresee the future. Whether it is true or false, there is no unified generalization. Shiraishi and Ruri discussed these considerations, recognizing that the land of ghosts had some advantages. Shiraishi questioned Ruri, intrigued by her reasoning. Notably, the land of iron, located closer to the land of fire, seemed more practical in terms of proximity. Ruri explained, my parents conduct most of their business affairs there. Their professional ties have fostered relationships with influential figures in the land of ghosts, which could prove advantageous. Shiraishi recalled that Ruri had mentioned her parents as businessmen in a distant small country. The land of ghosts was indeed located far west of the ninja world. The chief concern, however, was that the land of ghosts was a considerable distance from the land of fire. Even with non-stop travel, the journey would take over 3 days to complete. While Shiraishi briefly wished for access to planes, he acknowledged the limitations of existing technology within the ninja world. Though there might be flying tools, they were neither widely available nor financially viable. Ruri confirmed, "I don't possess knowledge about witches. I'll gather more information about the land of ghosts and witches in particular." Shiraishi agreed, that would be a valuable contribution. Despite the distance, Shiraishi was content with the unique attributes offered by the land of ghosts. He pondered the mysterious existence of witches, intrigued by their potential ability to foresee the future. 1 month had passed without them realizing it. It seemed neither long nor short. Afterwards, Shiraishi approached the Hyuga clan and invited Aine to join. During their conversation, the topic of the organization came up. Aine remained composed and said, "I'll support your decision, Shiraishi-kun, no matter what." Sometimes, Shiraishi found it difficult to comprehend the thoughts of girls. Perhaps this was a result of entering puberty. Despite having kept the underwear and kimono hidden in his room, Shiraishi didn't hand them over to Aine this time. He recognized that she wouldn't accept them just yet. Though she remained as well-behaved and obedient as before, Aine had grown somewhat stubborn in certain aspects. Shiraishi found this growth intriguing. What would her future hold? After freeing the caged bird, would she distance herself from him, seeking the freedom she desired and forging her independent path as a self-reliant individual? After all, she had been trained as a ninja under his guidance. He indulged her somewhat, even entertaining her unreasonable ideas. He wished for her to remain by his side throughout her life, yet he also hoped she'd achieve complete freedom to pursue her desires, unburdened by her master's moods. These conflicting emotions weighed on his mind. As for the organization's preparations, they were proceeding relatively smoothly. The organization's base had been established in the Land of Ghosts, a distant region within the ninja world. Shiraishi didn't need to physically inspect the location. He relied on 5 operatives to act as his eyes, hands, and feet. His personal visit to the Land of Ghosts could wait for many years. Currently, his presence wasn't necessary for the operation's progress. After a month of basic training, the 5 operatives had acquired rudimentary ninja skills. Their next step was to apply these skills in real combat scenarios. 2 days before the vacation's end, their training concluded. Ruri was tasked with transporting them out of Konoha. Ruri's ninja cat would serve as the intermediary between the 2 groups. The operative's sole destination was the Land of Ghosts. There, they would receive further instructions. Meanwhile, the laboratory had returned to its deserted state, with only Shiraishi working there. Over the past month, Shiraishi had mostly resolved the issue of replacing Chakra with natural energy as a life force. The outcome seemed improbable, yet Shiraishi had verified an unexpected answer. Natural energy, in a certain manner, bore a striking resemblance to Chakra. One could even argue that, after undergoing specific processing procedures, natural energy could be transformed into energy akin to Chakra. According to computer statistics, the similarity exceeded 90%, a feat that defied Shiraishi's understanding. This marked the limit of processing natural energy. Any further advancement would necessitate specialized equipment that remained shrouded in mystery. Shiraishi speculated that this discovery might be a mere coincidence. Natural energy emerged from nature, while Chakra manifested from the fusion of physical and spiritual power within a human body. In essence, they were distinct and unrelated, apart from their convergence in senjutsu fusion. This unexpected find might indeed be a fluke. Initially aiming to utilize natural energy as a life force replacement for Chakra, Shiraishi's research unearthed inconsistencies and issues that defied logic. Something's not right, Shiraishi sighed, grappling with his dilemma. To be honest, Shiraishi felt at a loss. There was no need to continue experiments verifying the link between Chakra and natural energy. For the purpose of resolving the caged bird issue, progress had reached its zenith. Additionally, he was out of ideas. The research had hit a dead end, a door firmly shut with answers concealed beyond. Shiraishi couldn't pry it open through force or other means. He reluctantly abandoned further exploration, as he couldn't conjure knowledge from thin air. Should new clues arise in the future, he'd resume the investigation. However, the present wasn't the time to dwell on such matters. Soon, he'd return to the battlefield. In early October, the 2-month break concluded. Today marked their departure for the front lines. Shiraishi, Ruri, and Aine gathered at the village's gate. A mysterious Umbu operative handed documents to Ruri and Aine before vanishing. Chunin appointment letters? Shiraishi noted. The documents, identical in form, signified their promotion to Chunin rank. Ruri, already at Jonin level, found the Chunin position underwhelming. Aine, on the other hand, received the letter with a smile, clearly unconcerned. Her strength nearly matched a Jonin's upon graduation, and 2 months of practicing natural energy had elevated her to Jonin level. Let's proceed, Aine announced. The journey to the front lines would only include the 3 of them. Though higher-ups provided no detailed instructions, they urged the trio to rendezvous with their captain, Tsukumo Hataki, as soon as possible. Shiraishi couldn't help but feel a slight yearning for Tsukumo, as it had been 2 months since they last met. Moreover, Tsukumo's resolute and demeanor garnered his admiration. Tsukumo consistently prioritized the safety of his team during missions, a trait Shiraishi held in high regard. Tsukumo's approach during their battle with the Sand Ninja emphasized this. In Shiraishi's view, Tsukumo exemplified a ninja who embodied the will of fire in its purest form. While Tsukumo might lack the qualities of a future Hokage, he epitomized the will's core tenets. Shiraishi held a similar perspective, despite his mild indifference to the concept. Episode 72. Scroll of Reconciliation. The following morning at 9 o'clock, Shiraishi and the other two arrived at the Konoha camp on the front line of the Land of Fire, where they were set to meet Tsukumo. The camp hadn't undergone significant changes since their last visit. If there was any difference, it was the heightened tension in the atmosphere. However, their recent mission to disrupt the hidden sand supply lines had been a success on Tsukumo's end. Despite Shiraishi's own troubles during the mission, Tsukumo had executed it masterfully, destroying Suna's vital supply point and weakening their offensive capabilities in the process. In essence, as long as we make it through this winter, does it mean that Suna will weaken itself? Shiraishi inquired. With October's arrival, the weather was gradually cooling down. Winter, especially in December, ushered in the cold season for both the Land of Fire and the Land of Rivers. Suna lacked the resources to endure this winter. By early spring, their situation would become incredibly unfavorable. Generally speaking, that's correct. However, we can't be certain if Suna will truly withdraw. All we can say is that it's very likely, Tsukumo replied. In their predicament, launching a final fierce assault to breach the Fire Country's defenses offered Suna a possible way out. With the third Kazekage leading the charge, they had to be thoroughly prepared. In such dire circumstances, the need for caution grew even more. Preventing the Sand Ninjas from gaining an upper hand was paramount. What's our team's assigned task? It remains the same as before, locate and eliminate the isolated Suna units to alleviate pressure on the front lines from the flanks, Tsukumo explained. Aware of his limitations as a ninja, Tsukumo lacked extensive ninjutsu capabilities. His strength stemmed from taijutsu and swordsmanship. Consequently, opponents with wide-ranging ninjutsu posed a challenge, yet his mastery of physical combat and sword skills was unmatched. The trio understood this well. Tsukumo's strengths and weaknesses were clear, suitable for small-scale battles, but less effective in larger conflicts. On the front lines, he had to navigate myriad threats, dodging kunai and explosive tags from unexpected angles. When comrades were in danger, the choice to intervene or not was a weighty decision. This complexity often dulled his swordsmanship's edge, preventing him from utilizing his full potential. Tsukumo had no complaints. Assignments aligned with a ninja's strengths and personality. He was adept at these operations, much like the Sannin excelled in their own roles, incompatible with his own. Since you just arrived today, take a day to rest here. We'll commence our mission tomorrow morning. Understood. Before Tsukumo left, he offered a suggestion to Shiraishi. By the way, Shiraishi, if you have some free time, consider visiting the medical camp. We're facing a shortage of medical ninjas here on the front lines. Lending a hand there would be appreciated. I'll keep that in mind. Shiraishi nodded and headed toward the medical camp. While it was indeed a way to relieve the medical team's pressure, Shiraishi understood that the extent of his assistance wouldn't drastically change the situation. Tsukumo's words were more of a comforting gesture. Treating patients was a medical ninja's responsibility, and Shiraishi had no reason to decline. Nonetheless, he believed Konoha's shortage of medical ninjas was a product of the village's own recognition and execution strategies. Konoha did value medical education, thanks in part to Tsunade's medical reform proposal several years ago, which led to the training of medical ninjas. However, at the start, the village hadn't fully embraced the reform. In the village's eyes, investing resources in low-combat medical ninjas seemed less appealing than bolstering combat effectiveness. It wasn't until the devastating war in the Land of Rain that the consequences of neglecting medical reform became evident. The skewed allocation of resources to powerful ninjas led to high mortality rates, prompting the implementation of mandatory medical ninjutsu training in the Ninja Academy. Shiraishi belonged to the first batch of the medical ninja experimental class resulting from the reform. He was acutely aware of Konoha's lackluster efforts in training medical ninjas. Without Tsunade's reform proposal, Konoha might never have focused on training medical ninjas. Arriving at the medical camp, Shiraishi was greeted by the pained cries of the wounded. The mingling scents of disinfectant and blood permeated the air, mingling with the limited space of the camp. Due to the priority placed on tending to severely injured ninjas, moderate injuries were treated next. This was the protocol of the Konoha Medical Corps. Amidst this scene, Shiraishi spotted Tsunade administering medical ninjutsu to the wounded, but he didn't indulge in reminiscence. Shiraishi explained his intent to the deputy commander at the medical camp, who welcomed the additional medical help with gratitude. Having an extra medical ninja at this critical time meant that a few more wounded could be saved. Shiraishi was a specially trained medical ninja assigned to Tsukumo's team. He was among the first batch of students in the ninja school's medical experimental class. His skill in medical ninjutsu was undeniable. Thus, Shiraishi was swiftly assigned over 10 moderately and mildly injured individuals, along with medical supplies. He was instructed to begin work promptly. Moving to an open area covered with mats, Shiraishi encountered dozens of injured Konoha ninjas lying there. He worked alongside 3 other medical ninjas, the eldest being in their 30s and the youngest a few years older than Shiraishi. Though all were medical ninjas, the pressing circumstances allowed little room for interaction, if any at all. Shiraishi focused on skillfully administering the healing technique, tending to the wounded with standardized movements. Throughout the process, he engaged in conversation with the injured, providing comfort and improving the treatment experience. "I'm feeling much better already. Just need a couple more days to rest. I recognize you. You're a member of Tsukumo's team, right? Your medical ninjutsu is really impressive." The healed Konoha ninja spoke kindly, praising Shiraishi's skill. "Thank you, but I have many areas to improve compared to my seniors." Shiraishi modestly responded to the compliment. He recognized that he still had much to learn, especially in comparison to medical ninjas of Tsunade's caliber. Starting in the morning, Shiraishi continued his medical work until darkness fell. Despite most tents being allocated for the medical team, some wounded were left outside due to space constraints. Upon returning to Ruri and Iane, Shiraishi found himself assigned an open space for rest. The following morning, well before dawn, the 3 of them were already awake. While some Konoha ninjas were still asleep, others patrolled the camp's outskirts, including sensory ninjas and members of the Hyuga clan. When Tsukumo arrived to gather them, Shiraishi and his companions were prepared. They had stocked up on ration pills, antidotes, kunai, explosive tags, sealed scrolls, medical kits, and more. As the team's sole auxiliary medical staff, Shiraishi's role included supplying as many provisions as possible. He had even packed emergency food and water in his backpack. The Tsukumo team's upcoming mission was notably unstructured. Encounter an enemy? Eliminate them. Encounter an ally? Provide assistance. Chance upon a convoy of Suna transports? Obliterate it. Their mission echoed the strategy Suna had used earlier by dispatching elite troops to create disturbances within the Fire Country. These acts distracted Konoha's attention and prevented the frontline ninjas from freely moving. Tsukumo's team was tasked with a similar approach. They were to infiltrate deep into the Land of Rivers, and even into the Land of Wind, executing sabotage operations behind enemy lines. Their actions would be dictated by the situation at hand. The mission granted the Tsukumo team substantial autonomy, underscoring its danger level. Shiraishi, Iane, and even Ruri were excited about the assignment. Ruri's abilities in ninjutsu, taijutsu, and genjutsu had grown significantly since their last battle. Her Sharingan had also evolved to the 3-tomo Sharingan form. Tsukumo was pleased with her progress and considered her a formidable force. He realized he couldn't underestimate her. Mid-November. Within the Land of Rivers, Suna Camp. With a gloomy expression, the 3rd Kazekage looked at the information relayed from the field. Over the past month, reports had surged in, detailing frequent Suna team patrols in the Land of Rivers. These patrols, however, were obliterated by an unknown force. Konoha's White Fang. The 3rd Kazekage's fist slammed onto the table, his eyes ablaze with anger. He didn't need to scrutinize the intelligence information to deduce who was behind these attacks. No Konoha Jonin other than White Fang possessed the terrifying speed of annihilation witnessed here. The speed was so fast that it seemed like a tornado. Wherever it went, no grass grew and it was uprooted. Whether they were Chunin, Jonin, or even Genin, no ninja squad was spared from this merciless onslaught. Aside from the renowned White Fang, the 3rd Kazekage couldn't fathom any other Konoha Jonin capable of such devastation. Even his 2 most trusted puppet squads, elite units, had fallen victim to White Fang's team in the Land of Fire. The corpses remained in Konoha's possession. Suna's mobilizable forces were hardly superior to Konoha's. The only variable was the Kazekage himself, along with the unused trump card, Morizuru. The poisonous attack strategy created by Suna was defeated by the Konoha ninja Tsunade. Despite his prowess in direct combat, Sand Ninja's overall competence was inferior to that of Konoha's. Compounded by a shortage of medical ninjas, the mortality rate was higher than in Konoha. Now with the added menace of White Fang's raids, Konoha's next moves. It wasn't long before a Jonin entered to report changes within the Konoha camp. Almost 1,000 ninjas had set out from the camp, heading their way from the front. However, the moment these Konoha forces crossed into the borders of the Land of Rivers, they halted their advance. It was as if they had assembled for a parade. Yet the third Kazekage understood that Konoha aimed to pressure Suna on the front, thereby enabling White Fang's team to strike. If Suna desperately pursues and kills the White Fang team, Konoha's larger force would descend upon them from the front. Is that Jinchuriki still unwilling to cooperate? The third Kazekage fixed a stern gaze on a high-ranking Suna ninja. He's unwilling. Despite my attempts at persuasion, he refuses to use One Tail's power. He insists that you, third Kazekage-sama, value peace and cease hostilities for the sake of Suna. The Jonin replied. Is it for Suna's sake that he desires to stop the war? The third Kazekage turned his attention toward the direction of the Land of Fire. The third Kazekage shifted his gaze towards the direction of the Land of Fire. The land there was more fertile than the Land of Wind, and Konoha was home to many skilled ninjas, such as the White Fang, the Sannin, Kato Dan. The ninja clans included the Inuzuka, Sarutobi, Shimura, Aburame, as well as the 3 clans of the Nara, Yamanaka, and Akimichi, along with other renowned ninjas. What was even more daunting was that Uchiha and Hyuga were also part of Konoha, ancient bloodline wielders of significant power in the ninja world. With such a formidable lineup, the third Kazekage felt a weight settle heavily on his heart. Now, if Konoha hasn't yet fully recovered from the war with Land of Rain, it could exploit the resources of the Land of Fire. But once Konoha regains its strength, reaping benefits will become incredibly difficult. As Konoha continues to grow in power, it exerts considerable pressure on neighboring countries and ninja villages. If this trend persists, with Konoha becoming increasingly dominant, Suna's space for existence will continue to shrink. They'll have no choice but to further reduce military spending and the number of ninjas. Suna will be left watching as Konoha's ninja ranks swell and their military resources flourish, a situation unique in the ninja world. In that scenario, Suna would be completely overshadowed by Konoha. The third Kazekage didn't want to witness Suna's decline like that. Regardless of Konoha's strength, he was prepared to resist. As long as Konoha's power could be weakened, Suna might find some relief and glimpse a path to prosperity. Without a war, there is no glimmer of hope in sight. On the international stage, there is no justice or evil, only strength and weakness, gains and losses. He is ill-suited for this ninja world. While the Jinchuriki might emanate peace, if left untapped, its potential risk remains dormant. But this also means that Suna cannot wield this weapon. In a war, the inability to utilize weapons is the gravest tragedy. It seems a new figure must be found to take its place. Upon hearing the third Kazekage's words, the Jounin's expression showed surprise. Kazekage-sama, this. Don't worry, I'm merely discussing it casually. After all, the transfer of the tailed beast is of utmost importance and must be deliberated in a high-level meeting. Though the Kazekage offered this reassurance, the Jounin remained uneasy. What should we do next then? The Jounin's tone was tinged with helplessness. This was the most challenging aspect for Suna. In comparison to Konoha, not only was there an overall quality gap, but Suna also lagged behind in terms of elite ninjas. A single Konoha White Fang had given them numerous headaches. The Suna ninjas dreaded confronting such a formidable ninja, fearing he would wreak havoc. Lately, many Suna ninjas were reluctant to take on missions such as patrolling the river country. Facing the White Fang, many Suna ninjas had already begun to experience a sense of terror. I have a plan in mind. Here is a personal letter from Iwagakure Zenoki to me. He has agreed to provide us covert assistance. You mean that such a kid? Frankly, I'm not sure if it's wise for Kazekage-sama to collaborate with him. This is our sole opportunity. The Kazekage asserted. Having said that, he sat down at his desk and composed 2 letters. After finishing the letters, he handed them to his trusted confidant, the Jounin, and instructed, one letter will be sent to Konoha's leader Orochimaru, and the other will be dispatched to Konoha's White Fang through our patrol team. This is. The Jounin regarded the third Kazekage with disbelief. Just follow the orders. Yes. Although laden with doubts, the Jounin descended to execute the mission. All for the sake of Suna. The third Kazekage murmured softly, a glint of determination flickering in his eyes. In the western region of the Land of Rivers, at the crossroads connecting the Land of Wind and the Land of Rivers, Suna ninjas supporting the Land of Rivers from the Land of Wind frequently traversed this road. This location served as the site where the 4 members of Sakumo's team executed their annihilation strategy. Their approach was clear: obliterate every Suna ninja in their path, without exception. Following the annihilation of one team, they would swiftly retreat, avoiding prolongation, finding a concealed spot to lie low, and then resuming their assault after a certain period. Sakumo's reputation had long preceded him, but the combined strengths of Ruri and Iane, both functioning at Jonin-level prowess and possessing bloodline limits, amplified their destructive capabilities exponentially. Shiraishi's role was to provide minimal assistance from the rear, which included using poisonous smoke bombs and throwing detonators. During periods of non-combat, he used locally available materials to concoct medicines such as ration pills and antidotes. Given the highly toxic nature of Sand Ninja's puppet master weapons, it was crucial to guard against accidental contamination. This approach bolstered the Tsukumo team's sustained combat effectiveness. In the morning, another team of 6 Suna Ninja met their end. Though the numbers may not seem staggering, their team had been fighting ceaselessly for over a month, repeatedly eliminating enemies, amounting to hundreds in total. Their tactics involved opportune encounters with convoys entering the Land of Rivers from the Land of Wind. They would ignite the limited resources of Suna and create chaos with Ruri's large-scale fire escape technique before swiftly retreating to evade encirclement. For those who pursued in smaller numbers, the Tsukumo squad would turn the tide, annihilating the pursuers. When facing larger chasing forces, they would employ their exceptional mobility to navigate the Land of Rivers in such a way that an encirclement became nearly impossible unless Sandine deployed a considerable force, which, if done, would weaken their frontal presence. If the third Kazekage truly adopted this strategy and divided his forces, Suna on the front lines would never be able to overcome Konoha, and their losses would escalate further. Shiraishi efficiently scoured the fallen Suna ninja bodies for scrolls containing jutsu information, combat tools like exploding tabs, and recovery items like ration pills and antidotes. His backpack was loaded to its capacity. He couldn't help but marvel at the relative ease of his assignment compared to the challenges Ruri and Ain faced. The latter duo confronted hordes of Suna ninjas and navigated a relentless escape, all while evading the threat of being surrounded. Even though his own strength had grown considerably, Shiraishi knew better than to challenge Suna's massive forces head-on. Yet, the presence of Tsukumo's team allowed them to confront smaller squads headlong, ensuring efficiency. When opposing larger groups, they resorted to a strategy of wandering, leading the enemy forces in circles within the Land of Rivers. The choice of whether to pursue or not must have been a vexing one for the Suna ninja. Chasing could spell death, while not pursuing allowed Tsukumo's team to continue sabotaging them and attacking patrols and convoys. With Ain's Byakugan, there was no need to fear a head-on encounter. In the face of larger armies, they would simply target the weakest point and break through. Tsukumo's leadership and charging prowess rendered him a free-moving force within the Land of Rivers, offering the Tsukumo squad remarkable versatility. Alright, we've finished searching this area. On a white stone terrain, Shiraishi moved to a clean spot among 6 corpses, collectively sighing as they reflected on their progress. The bodies included 1 upper ninja, 3 chunin, and 2 lower-level ninjas. Though Tsukumo had played a pivotal role, the combined efforts of the 3 were crucial, especially concerning the continuity of their supplies. With a nod, Tsukumo signaled their next move. Following closely behind, Shiraishi and the others proceeded with alacrity, racing along the border between the Land of Rivers and the Land of Wind. Whenever fatigue set in, they would take breaks, consuming dry rations and water, before pressing forward. Around 3 in the afternoon, Ain's Byakugan detected a 4-person Sand Ninja team. Tsukumo wasted no time and executed their customary annihilation approach against this squad. Something's amiss. Ain voiced her concerns. What's wrong? Rur asked. One member of their team should be a sensory ninja. He sensed our presence, but made no attempt to flee or prepare for combat. Ain's words prompted thoughtful expressions from the others. It's almost as if they're waiting for us to pass by. Ain stated with uncertainty. Any traps around? Tsukumo asked. Ain scrutinized the vicinity and shook her head. There were no traps, not to mention that these Sand Ninja hadn't even channeled Chakra or readied long-range ninjutsu attacks. Approaching cautiously, a Sand Shinobi separated from the group, advancing toward them. At Ain's signal, Tsukumo halted, and Shiraishi and Ruri followed suit. In an instant, the Sand Ninja arrived before them. Surprisingly, he didn't initiate any action. Instead, he produced a sealed letter from his ninja pouch. White Fong-sama, this letter comes from 3rd Kazekage-sama. Please take a look. The Suna ninja presented the letter as if it were a business transaction. Nodding to Tsukumo, Ain confirmed that the letter contained no poison or chakra activity, indicating its normalcy. Tsukumo stepped forward, accepting the letter and briefly scanning its contents. His eyes narrowed slightly. I understand. I'll personally confirm this matter. The Sand Ninja nodded and vanished from sight. Tsukumo-sensei, what does the letter say? Shiraishi and the others gathered around, curious about the letter's contents. Tsukumo didn't withhold the information, unfurling the scroll and displaying it for Shiraishi and the others to see. At the top of the letter, only 3 words were written, reconciliation letter. It appeared to be a communication from Sand Ninja's 3rd Kazekage, signaling their willingness to cease hostilities with Konoha. Can we trust the contents of this letter? I'm uncertain. We'll need to consult with Orochimaru. If he agrees, the war might end here. If he disagrees, we'll continue our mission. Until we receive official orders, we'll temporarily suspend the mission and abstain from attacking Sand Shinobi. Tsukumo's final words hung in the air as he gazed into the distance. Episode 73. Conspiracy. The war between Suna and Konoha had raged on for 2 years. Konoha was bearing the brunt of war weariness. Before even engaging with the Suna, Konoha had already clashed with the Wagakure ninjas in the Land of Rain. Many ninja were already physically and mentally drained. So, when the third Kazekage presented the terms of settlement, according to Shiraishi's estimation, there was a high likelihood that Konoha would accept. After all, this had always been Konoha's primary strategy. Continuing to engage with Suna would only benefit other ninja villages. Really, it's come to this point. We were on the brink of defeating Suna. Submitting these settlement terms without any fight feels like we're leaving the door wide open for a comeback in the future, Ruri complained as she sat on a rock. It had only been a little over a month since she had left the village, and she hadn't had the chance to spar with the Sand Ninja yet. If the war ended now, Tsukumo's team's mission would also come to an end. You can't say that. Many ninja from various villages in the alliance are exhausted, and Suna is in a similar state. Ending this peacefully at this point is in the best interest of both sides. As for the future, we can deal with that later, Shiraishi explained, thinking like a true Konoha ninja. Great. I thought I'd miss celebrating the new year in the village this year. I've been looking forward to this year's festival, Ain chimed in with a smile. Shiraishi turned his head away as if he hadn't heard her comment. That's right, with the war ending soon, you can return for the New Year's festival. I also want to go back and visit Kakashi, Tsukumo added, grinning. Kakashi? Shiraishi, Ain, and Shiraishi were all intrigued by this new name. Did I forget to mention it to you guys? Tsukumo raised an eyebrow, puzzled. No, we haven't heard anything about this. Who is he? Shiraishi asked, shaking his head. He's my son, Hatake Kakashi. Although he's only 2 years old this year, I believe he'll grow up to be an excellent ninja, Tsukumo proudly revealed. Son. Shiraishi, Ain, and Ruri exclaimed in surprise, finding it hard to conceal their astonishment. There was no way to describe their surprise. Tsukumo having a son was something they hadn't heard about. What's wrong? Tsukumo looked at them quizzically. No, we just thought that, Tsukumo-san, you were still single. We didn't expect that not only are you married, but you also have a son. Ain quickly explained. Shiraishi and Ruri nodded in agreement. In their minds, Tsukumo had always had that kind of image. Sorry, I thought I'd mentioned it before. It's alright. We were just a bit taken aback when we heard it suddenly. After all, this is a personal matter. We hadn't interacted with Tsukumo-sensei until we graduated from the Ninja Academy. So, it's surprising to learn that Tsukumo-sensei has a 2-year-old son. Hatake Kakashi, it's a very nice name, Ain said with a smile. But deep down, she was thinking, what kind of name should mine and Shiraishi's child have in the future? Speaking of which, my father hasn't been very responsible. My child's birthday was in September, and I couldn't make it back to the village to celebrate. And now, it's already November, Shiraishi lamented. There's always next year, and I hope Tsukumo-sensei will treat us then, he added with a laugh. Tsukumo's expression twitched. Mentioning treating others seemed to trigger some unpleasant memories. He didn't want to be on the verge of bankruptcy on his son's birthday. Really? That's great. I'll come with an empty stomach that day. Get ready, Tsukumo-sensei, Ain said with a smile, confirming the plan. Tsukumo sighed, realizing his wallet seemed to be lost, and then he looked at Ruri. Don't look at me like that. It's your son's birthday party. It would be rude if I paid for it. After all, you are White Fong-sama. Ruri's ruthless rejection left Tsukumo without any argument to save face. He sighed internally, saving face was no longer an option. 2 days later, Konoha and Suna formally concluded a settlement agreement and signed an armistice treaty. The weather was clear and sunny as Tsukumo's team embarked on their journey back to the Konoha camp on the border of the Land of Fire. The armistice agreement had been signed at 9 o'clock in the morning, and now it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. This meant that news of the truce with Suna should have already been relayed back to the camp and would soon reach the village. However, upon their return to the camp at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the 4 members of Tsukumo's team sensed that something was amiss. It wasn't just a somber atmosphere, it felt more like a cloud of sorrow had settled over the camp. The 4 exchanged puzzled glances, unsure of what had transpired. While they knew that the end of the war would bring about mixed emotions, this level of solemnity was unusual. Amid this gloom, there was an underlying current of anger and a palpable sense of murderous intent that hung in the air. What's happening here? Shiraishi wondered aloud. I have no idea. What could have occurred? Shiraishi added, deep in thought. Shiraishi stroked his chin, contemplating the situation. Could there have been an issue with the agreement? Did Suna have no intention of upholding their end of the bargain? These were questions racing through his mind as he attempted to make sense of it all. You, as a medical ninja, need to hurry to the medical department. They are in dire need of additional personnel. A Konoha ninja approached Shiraishi urgently. Shiraishi glanced at Tsukumo, who nodded, and then followed the ninja to the camp's medical facilities. You two stay here and rest. I'll go find Orochimaru to gather information, Tsukumo instructed Shiraishi and Aiane. At the medical camp, a scene of tragedy unfolded. Dozens of Konoha ninja lay within the tents, their bodies battered and bloodied. The agonized cries of the wounded were enough to momentarily overwhelm Shiraishi's senses. How had this happened? These injuries seemed recent, perhaps even from today. What had transpired? Shiraishi didn't voice his questions, but instead followed a highly skilled medical ninja. All those injured required immediate surgery. Tragically, some were beyond help, and their lives were claimed by their injuries before they could be treated. The camp resounded with weeping and lamentation. Each medical ninja worked tirelessly, their faces drenched in sweat, leaving no room for idle conversation. 2 hours passed, and the initial round of first aid was complete. However, the brevity of the operation time was not due to success, but rather because many had succumbed to their wounds even before surgery could commence. Some, despite surgical efforts, still could not be saved. Only a dozen individuals were pulled back from the brink of death. We did all we could, the attending medical ninja assured Shiraishi, patting him on the shoulder, recognizing the emotional toll such scenes could take on a young medical ninja. Thank you, Shiraishi managed to respond, still processing the tragic events. What exactly happened here? Shiraishi finally voiced the question that had been on his mind. The attending medical ninja knew that Shiraishi, as one of Tsukumo's team, had not been privy to the events at the medical camp, so he began to explain, his expression heavy with sorrow. We don't have all the details yet, but we know that the team responsible for delivering the armistice agreement to Suna was ambushed by unknown assailants on their way back. By the time they returned here, they were in this state. But what about the armistice agreement? Was it the work of Suna? Shiraishi inquired. I can't say for sure. What we do know is that we suffered significant losses this time. I heard that even Jonin Kato was among the casualties, the attending medical ninja replied. Jonin Kato? Shiraishi was taken aback, recognizing the surname. Could it be? Tsunade is deeply affected by the loss. Kato's sacrifice has hit her hard. Kato was formidable. How could? Shiraishi struggled to understand. Kato was none other than Tsunade's current boyfriend, Kato Dan. Although not as renowned as Tsukumo, he was one of Konoha's elite jonin. In one-on-one combat, he might even match the legendary Sannin. Furthermore, his ability to manipulate chakra was nothing short of incredible, and his sensory perception covered a vast area, making it easy for him to identify weak points and escape danger. To protect his comrades and buy them time to retreat, he chose to confront the enemy alone. By the time reinforcements arrived, he was already gravely wounded. Lady Tsunade did her utmost, but she couldn't save Kato, the attending medical ninja explained somberly. I see. Shiraishi sighed, realizing the extent of the sacrifice. Despite not knowing Kato personally, he couldn't help but admire the selflessness displayed in saving his comrades. In this era, life was not something to be taken for granted, nor was death something to mourn excessively. This was the current reality of the ninja world. He could empathize with Tsunade's pain, but he couldn't truly understand it. The emotions of human beings were deeply personal and not easily shared. Shiraishi, seeing there was nothing more to be done at the medical camp, left to rejoin Tsukumo and the others at their residence. The trio, including Tsukumo, had been waiting there, engrossed in conversation. Tsukumo-sensei, I'm back. What's going on? I heard that unidentified individuals attacked the ninja mission assigned to sign an armistice agreement with the Tsunagakure. That's accurate. Not only that, Orochimaru sustained serious injuries. If it weren't for Kato's resolute decision to cover our retreat, there's a high likelihood that those of us en route to sign the armistice would have been ambushed, resulting in our entire force being annihilated. Tsukumo briefly recounted the information he had received from Orochimaru. It's truly outrageous. Regardless of the circumstances, we must maintain the utmost vigilance, Ruri commented, her face marked by anger. She emphasized the importance of this situation. Drawing from historical lessons, during the First Ninja World War, when the Second Hokage and the Second Raikage of Kumogakure signed an armistice agreement, they fell victim to an attack by radical leaders from Kumogakure, the Gold and Silver Brothers. Kinkaku and Ginkaku, who led a large group of Kumogakure jonin in a raid. The Second Raikage was killed on the spot during the signing of the armistice agreement. This event was a result of putting too much trust in their supposed allies. The past taught them to be more cautious when dealing with armistice agreements. Orochimaru, who led the mission, had suffered grave injuries, and less than half of the hundreds of Konoha ninjas returned. The greatest sacrifice was made by Kato, who, alone, fought to the death in order to allow Orochimaru to lead the Konoha troops to safety. Now is not the time to lay blame. Have we identified the enemy responsible? Shiraishi questioned Tsukumo. Tsukumo sighed and shook his head. No. Their ninjutsu techniques are highly intricate. One among them is immensely powerful and seems to be immortal, capable of resurrection after being killed. This ability led to carelessness among their companions, resulting in the death of several jonin. Who is this individual? We have no idea, replied the trio of Shiraishi, their brows furrowed. It seemed implausible that such a powerful character would remain unknown in the ninja world, especially one with the ability to defy death. Perhaps a bounty hunter from the black market, speculated Tsukumo. He wasn't entirely certain about the identity of the ninja who had led the attack on the Konoha mission, but suspected the involvement of a rogue ninja thriving in the black market. This world was a grim and treacherous domain, where the strong preyed upon the weak. It was home to numerous powerful, yet relatively unknown ninjas. The ninja who had ambushed the Konoha mission fit the profile of these high-strength black market operatives. The underground black market? Investigating that avenue could prove quite challenging. Could Suna have hired them? Shiraishi, too, was acquainted with this shadowy world. The bounty hunters lurking in the dark corners of the ninja world, thriving in the black market, were often defectors or rogue samurai. Although some were mediocre, others possessed formidable abilities. The underground black market was a complex network, with each major village having its own branch deeply entrenched within the ninja world. It's a possibility, but we lack concrete evidence to substantiate it. Before we returned, the third Kazekage dispatched an envoy to condemn us for not adhering to the agreed-upon schedule and inquire about our intentions regarding this war. This revelation had incited anger among many Konoha ninjas. In their eyes, it was evident that the Sand Ninja had orchestrated the mission's ambush. If Orochimaru hadn't intervened, the Suna envoy would have likely met a grisly end at the hands of enraged Konoha ninjas. Shiraishi and his comrades were left feeling somewhat disheartened after hearing this. They empathized with the anger brewing among the Konoha ninjas. Given the current circumstances, it appeared highly probable that Sakakushi had turned traitor and was plotting a surprise attack on Konoha. However, these were mere speculations, with no conclusive evidence to substantiate Sand Ninja involvement. It was indeed a disheartening situation. What's the village's stance? Shiraishi inquired. The village has just received the news. Due to the gravity of the situation, the higher-ups will likely engage in lengthy deliberations, and it may take up to 3 or 4 days for a definitive directive to be issued. This was the most conservative estimate. The outcome, whether peace or continued warfare, hinged on the decision of Konoha's top leadership. Shiraishi harbored no objections to this. He had no inclination towards warfare and remained detached from how Konoha's senior leadership would manage the situation. Peace talks? 3 days later, the high-level order arrived, peace talks with Suna. This left many ninjas in the Konoha camp perplexed. However, the high-ranking officials provided an explanation. The ambush on the Konoha mission, which led to the failure of the truce agreement signing with Suna, was a conspiracy orchestrated by IWA. The unidentified ninja who attacked the Konoha mission had been hired by a Wagakure from the black market. Currently, with Konoha and Suna still embroiled in war, continuing this battle would only play into the trap cleverly devised by IWA, alongside Suna. Therefore, it was deemed necessary to sign an armistice agreement with Suna in order to safeguard a Wagakure. What's going on, Orochimaru? Jiraiya asked in a puzzled manner. Orochimaru produced another piece of information, saying, this is crucial intelligence gathered by the Umbu. 2 days ago, a small-scale conflict erupted between Suna and IWA ninjas in the Land of Bears. Suna and IWA, they? Jiraiya looked at Orochimaru with confusion. Orochimaru replied, after Tsukumo destroyed Tsunagekyure's supplies, Suna sought cooperation with Iwagakure, hoping for additional supplies. Iwagakure agreed to the request, but when transferring the supplies 2 days ago, they provided only 1/20th of the originally agreed-upon amount. This sparked a conflict between the two parties. Jiraiya remained puzzled, sensing that something was amiss. Whether it's Iwagakure's Tsuchikage masterminding this or Kazekage plotting alone, or the two collaborating against Konoha, the specifics are no longer important. How can you say it's not important? I risked my life to eliminate that guy, and... Don't shout here, too many lives have been lost in this war. Kato was simply judging him as a genuine ninja, nothing more, Orochimaru interjected, uninterested in Jiraiya's outburst, feeling deeply disturbed himself. Continuing peace talks with Suna is the unanimous decision of the high-ranking officials. After all, if we continue to fight, we won't just be dealing with the Suna, but also Iwa. Although the words, it's not worth fighting against both Suna and IWA for one Kato, couldn't quite escape his lips, Orochimaru believed it to be the truth. The mastermind behind the previous ambush mission was likely Suna. However, Orochimaru was unclear about why they had attempted to ambush Konoha before the war's end and even recruited the Tsuchikage for this act, effectively preventing Konoha from moving freely. What is that Kazekage thinking? It's akin to a warm-up exercise before a battle, gradually building tension, Shiraishi explained. Warm up? In the tent, Ain looked at Shiraishi with a puzzled expression, not comprehending his words. The attack on the Konoha mission was undoubtedly orchestrated by that Kazekage. Even if he didn't execute it himself, the strategy likely originated from him. Is there any evidence? The warm-up exercise concept I mentioned serves as the foundation. Before concluding this war, eliminating some of Konoha's elite ninjas would weaken Konoha. But, if the higher-ups decide to continue the war, wouldn't this plan backfire? Ain inquired. That's why I involved Iwagakure. From the perspective of Konoha's higher-ups, Sunagakure initially intended to continue fighting since they received supplies from Iwagakure, enabling them to sustain the war. However, after the attack on the Konoha mission, Iwagakure abruptly reduced the promised supplies. This left Sunagakure unable to continue the battle. To Konoha's leadership, it appeared as though Sunagakure had been outmaneuvered by Iwagakure, a hidden trap. But won't the high-ups see through such a straightforward strategy? Whether they do or not isn't crucial. What matters is whether they possess the capacity to wage war against both Sunagakure and Iwagakure simultaneously. The Konoha executives have no intention of engaging in such a conflict with the two ninja villages concurrently. This is a blatant conspiracy. While Konoha had the capability, Shiraishi didn't believe the high-ranking officials possessed the determination to sacrifice Konoha's progress over the next decade to confront both Suna and Iwa. It was apparent that the two villages had already conspired together. Alternatively, Iwa may have been manipulated by that Kazekage. Iwagakure didn't cooperate with Suna. Instead, Suna acted unilaterally to divert attention and shift the focus of the problem. Warming up? That's quite an apt description. Ain thought the term warm-up exercise was fitting if Shiraishi's theory held true. Annihilating the Konoha mission and having Iwagakure cooperate was akin to a warm-up exercise for a more ferocious attack on the Land of Fire in the years following this war. In fact, Shiraishi had previously mentioned that after the conclusion of the Second Ninja World War, the Third Ninja World War wouldn't be far off and would center around the Land of Fire where Konoha was located. These revelations left Ain deeply impressed. At that time, it truly seemed like the ideal moment to part ways with Konoha. In the Suna hidden camp, surrounded by his loyal confidants and Jonin, the third Kazekage's future development plan received high praise. It appeared that none could fathom the true intentions of Kazekage-sama. Konoha, Iwa, and even their own villages had all been manipulated by their respected Kazekage. Konoha faced an even bleaker situation, forced to sign an armistice agreement despite suffering significant casualties. It was clear that Iwagakure intended to utilize Suna to continue the war against Konoha. The reduction in the supplies originally promised to Suna wasn't a deception, it had genuinely occurred. This was just one aspect that the third Kazekage had skillfully exploited. Iwagakure secretly celebrated this development as the conflict between Suna and Konoha deepened. From Konoha's perspective, it seemed that Suna and Iwa had conspired against them, preventing Konoha from moving freely. Thus, signing an armistice agreement with Suna became essential to avoid a joint attack from Suna and Iwa on the Land of Fire. In the coming years, we'll utilize the abundant resources we've acquired from the Land of Fire to train more exceptional ninjas for our village. This will prepare us for the war that lies ahead in a few years. Together, let's strive to create a prosperous era for Sand, one that truly belongs to us. The third Kazekage rose from his seat, exuding confidence and seeking to inspire his subordinates. Yes. We'll serve to the death. The shinobi rose from their seats, gazing at the third Kazekage with fervent eyes. It seemed that in a few years, under Kazekage's leadership, they would once again exploit vulnerabilities in the Land of Fire to acquire more and better resources. The era of Suna's true ascent was fast approaching. Episode 74. Introduction to the protagonist's abilities, current. Some readers have expressed confusion about the protagonist's abilities, so I'd like to take this opportunity to clarify. In truth, there isn't much to boast about at the moment. The protagonist lacks any extraordinary skills that instantly convey a sense of power, resulting in a rather vague and ordinary level of strength. Name, Chiba Shiraishi. Age, 12. Gender, male. Abilities. Taijutsu, proficient in speed, strength, and neural response, surpassing that of regular ninjas, specializes in physical sneak attacks for one-hit kills, targeting human weaknesses. Medical ninjutsu, proficient. Natural energy, high proficiency. Senjutsu, incomplete, due to substantial risks, no attempt to combine natural energy and chakra. Illusion, average proficiency. Affinity, unavailable. Overview. Chiba Shiraishi is best suited for skirmishes on a smaller scale. He lacks the ability to deal significant damage to large groups, making it impossible to unleash unparalleled power on his own. Teaming up with allies is essential to compensate for his limited offensive capabilities. Episode 75. Not the battlefield of carnage. The truce with Suna was just a few days later. This time, they had rearranged the location for signing the armistice agreement. The Konoha mission went unscathed, and the armistice agreement was executed without incident. Though the war had concluded, ninja presence still lined the borders of the Land of Fire. Furthermore, evacuating and returning to the village was a process spanning more than just a couple of days. They needed to count and store unused materials, tend to numerous wounded individuals, and verify and transport the bodies of the fallen back to the village. Tsukumo's team found themselves with nothing to do with the time. The war was over, and they were no longer required to conduct sabotage operations behind enemy lines, as they had done previously in Suna Hidden Camp. Leaving aside the other 3 members, Shiraishi was kept busy due to his role as a medical ninja, assigned to the medical unit day in and day out. This ensured smoother recoveries for the wounded when they eventually returned to Konoha. In reality, the medical ninjas who participated in the operation were all seasoned and highly skilled adult ninjas. Shiraishi didn't protest, as it lightened his workload significantly. These days continued until early December when the Konoha ninjas on the front lines began dismantling the camp and returning to the village, marking the conclusion of Shiraishi's duties with the medical team. The journey back from the front lines to the village took 3 to 4 days due to their deliberate pace. They had to care for the injured and protect valuable and used supplies. Rushing back within a single day was out of the question. Upon their return, Shiraishi experienced the recognition of a hero for the first time. The senior Konoha leadership, led by the 3rd Hokage, together with a large contingent of Konoha ninjas and the villagers from Konoha, welcomed the returning ninjas. After a day's rest, Konoha held a grand memorial ceremony. Out of the more than 500 individuals who had brought back the deceased, less than 1/10 had returned with the corpses intact. Many bodies remained missing, were so badly mutilated that they couldn't be identified, or belonged to Suna's ninjas. The latter group was even more numerous. December's weather was already quite cold. On the day of the burial ceremony, the sky was overcast, with rare glimpses of sunlight. Tsukumo's team donned pure black mourning attire and stood solemnly in front of the newly erected tombstones. This war with Suna had lasted for over 2 years, surpassing even the war in the Land of Rain in terms of severity and casualty rates. Suna's ninja formation exhibited a comprehensive level of skill far surpassing that of Iwagikire's ninja. "I don't see Tsunade," Ain remarked quietly, looking around the surroundings. Shiraishi also looked around. Orochimaru and Jiraiya, among the 3 Sanins, were present, and even Jiraiya's student, Minato, had shown up. However, Tsunade was conspicuously absent. Well, this war has directly taken 2 of her closest people. It's natural that she wouldn't want to attend this kind of funeral. However, once everyone departs, she will come here discreetly, Shiraishi explained. Tsunade didn't want others to witness her vulnerable side, so she would choose someone to visit the memorial in private. In Shiraishi's eyes, Tsunade's spirit had grown fragile. However, everyone has varying levels of inner strength and differing capacities for handling adversity. Shiraishi fully understood this. "You 3 should return home. I'll go discuss something with Hokage-sama." After the memorial, Tsukumo said this before heading toward the location of the 3rd Hokage and other high-ranking officials. Shiraishi and Ain didn't object. They exchanged glances and departed from the mausoleum park. "It looks like this year's New Year celebration will be quite somber," Ain commented as they walked, sounding somewhat regretful. Upon hearing Ain's words, Shiraishi and Ruri nodded in agreement. It was already December, and many families had been torn apart by the war. Although the festivities would go on as usual, it was certain that the usual liveliness would be lacking. It wasn't just the civilians, many ninjas from the major ninja clans had also made sacrifices. "What are your plans now?" "The war's over, but it feels rather abrupt," Ain continued. "That's likely because our team hasn't participated in a frontline battle before," Shiraishi responded. "You too, don't take it lightly just because the war is over. If something happens to you, finding a ninja who can keep up with my pace will be no easy task," Ruri warned. Shiraishi scoffed lightly and replied, "Don't worry, my motto has always been safety first." The end of the war didn't render ninjas useless. In times of peace, ninjas still undertake missions, but these missions are notably less challenging compared to times of war. Shiraishi realized he hadn't attempted to accept a standard mission. All the missions he had undertaken so far involved combat with enemy ninjas. The lowest level of mission was categorized as a B-level task. Standard missions were A-level. Occasionally, he would accompany Tsukumo on an S-level mission, dipping his toes into the military aspect. Considering that Ruri and Ain in the team had both achieved Chunin rank, he, as the lowest-ranking genin in Tsukumo's team, couldn't help but ponder when he might attain Chunin status. After all, it felt a little odd to be a genin in Tsukumo's elite squad. After a brief chat, the 3 of them went their separate ways, returning to their homes. "Speaking of which, are uncle and aunt coming back for New Year's this year?" "They will send them something." "Really? Won't you feel lonely?" Shiraishi inquired. It doesn't matter. It seems like it's another year of vigil for just the two of us. Shiraishi remarked casually, placing his hands behind his head. Yes, another year without any expectations. Ruri replied, her gaze wandering to the gray sky, lost in thought. December passed swiftly, and since Konoha and Suna signed an armistice agreement, the ninja world remained relatively calm. During this period, the Sakumo team only embarked on 2 missions, both of them relatively simple sea-level tasks. These missions involved suppressing a bandit stronghold in the Land of Fire and guarding caravans traveling to the neighboring lands. Compared to the peaceful time of the ninja world, Konoha village was undergoing some not-so-insignificant changes. Tsunade had resigned from her position at Konoha Hospital to dedicate herself to the business of training medical ninjas at the Ninja Academy. This decision puzzled many. Shiraishi, in particular, found it suspicious. With Tsunade's exceptional medical ninjutsu skills, she was unparalleled in the modern ninja world. Among the Sannin, she was undoubtedly the strongest in the realm of medical ninjutsu. In the eyes of medical ninjas, Tsunade represented the pinnacle they aspired to reach. Given her capabilities, she could have continued her work at Konoha Hospital and simultaneously trained medical ninjas at the ninja school. These 2 roles weren't mutually exclusive. Most of the routine medical cases at Konoha Hospital could be handled by other medical ninjas. Tsunade was only required for particularly complex surgeries. The higher-ups didn't provide any explanation for her resignation, simply respecting Tsunade's personal wishes. While she had relinquished her position at Konoha Hospital, Konoha's medical ninjas could still consult Tsunade for advanced medical knowledge. Tsunade didn't seem to mind. In the field of medical ninjutsu, Tsunade was the foremost authority. Her contributions to Konoha included developing numerous medicines, successfully countering Elder Chiyo of Suna's poisons during the war, and significantly reducing the poisonous threat posed by Suna's puppet troops with her own abilities. Furthermore, Tsunade's surgical prowess had saved countless lives during the war, earning her the gratitude of many Konoha ninjas. In Shiraishi's opinion, among the 3 Sannin, Tsunade was the most likely candidate to become Hokage in the future. She possessed excellent bloodline as the granddaughter of the first Hokage, a huge support base, and had earned immense respect. However, Shiraishi's perspective was limited to his family. Konoha's political landscape was, well, to put it mildly, peculiar. Shiraishi couldn't find the right words to describe it, so he simply used special. Konoha's Hokage relied heavily on the power of Umbu, a direct subordinate unit. This power was split between Umbu and Root. The curious thing was that the control of Root didn't rest with Hokage, it operated independently under a dark veil. Uchiha controlled Konoha's military police force and held significant authority, surpassing Hokage's direct subordinate Umbu in some aspects. For example, Umbu needs the Hokage's order to arrest people. While the Uchiha were undoubtedly powerful ninjas, the police's headquarters was located in a relatively secluded part of the village, not at Konoha's heart. This arrangement didn't facilitate the garrison's effectiveness. Shiraishi believed that many fundamental issues needed to be addressed and changed. Although the first Hokage established Konoha, and the second Hokage created the development pattern of Ninja Village, there are also many regulations that cannot be adapted to the times and the things they left behind. If changes were made in the future, some regrettable tragedies will inevitably occur. However, he couldn't help but feel that his concerns were unfounded. The organizational framework was already firmly in place. The 5 individuals he dispatched were currently affiliated with the business group established by Ruri's parents. They had procured a sizable plot of land in the Land of Ghosts, where they planned to establish a base. Once Shiraishi decided to leave Konoha and embark on his own path, he would be ready for the next, more intense war. His philosophy and thought patterns were fundamentally at odds with the village. January marked the beginning of a new year. To avoid raising suspicion, Shiraishi and Ruri attended the New Year's festival together, a tradition they had upheld in previous years. Now that Aine was part of Sakumo's team, they could openly enjoy the festival without drawing unnecessary attention. A squad, formed like a close-knit unit, was in many ways like a family. The bond among squad members was strong. Happy New Year! Dressed in a new white kimono adorned with pink cherry blossoms, Aine waited for Shiraishi and Ruri on the street. She bowed slightly to greet them. Happy New Year! Both Shiraishi and Ruri returned the greeting with slight bows. However, Ruri didn't acknowledge Aine. Unlike Aine, Ruri wore a light blue kimono with a matching blue headband adorning her hair. Her attire was somewhat revealing around her neck and shoulders, displaying her snow-white and slender neck. The 3 exchanged red envelopes with each other as customary New Year gifts. Due to the war that persisted into the previous month, the New Year celebrations in Konoha were subdued compared to usual. It wasn't yet time for the evening festival, but festive decorations adorned the streets. Some houses displayed straw rope arrangements with pine and bamboo branches at their entrances. Children played on the streets, holding toys and laughing, their joy casting aside the shadows of war. Hearing the laughter of these children helped alleviate some of the war's sadness. Ruri, your kimono is lovely. Well, yours isn't bad either. Ruri glanced at Ayane's kimono, which featured a white base with pink cherry blossom patterns. The kimono perfectly suited Ayane's pure and gentle demeanor. Yeah, after all, it's the best gift I've received this year. Ayane replied with a smile. By the way, where are you two planning to go today? After hearing Ayane say those words, Shiraishi quickly changed the topic skillfully, afraid that she might say something unnecessary at this time. I heard there are some new shops in the village. We thought we'd check them out. Later in the evening, we'll join Tsukumo-sensei for a barbecue. Ayane was eagerly looking forward to the evening's festivities and a sumptuous meal with Tsukumo. Shiraishi and Ruri had no objections to the plan, as the highlight was the evening barbecue. To ensure they could fully enjoy the feast later, they had decided not to eat anything during the day. Shiraishi wasn't particularly interested in shopping, but he understood that for Ruri and Ayane, the thrill lay in the atmosphere, not necessarily in buying anything. Ruri, on the other hand, was an exception. Ayane came from a well-off family and wasn't obsessed with material possessions. Given her appetite, most ordinary households would have gone bankrupt long ago. Shiraishi, being the poorest among them, understood the value of frugality. During the afternoon, Shiraishi, Ruri, and Ayane strolled, evaluated various products, and shared opinions. The atmosphere was harmonious, almost like that of a family. Time passed quickly, and the sky began to darken. More people filled the streets. The light snowfall added a chill to the air, but with the increasing crowd, the cold became less noticeable. Ninjas, usually busy with their duties, had removed their ninja attire and donned fresh clothes for the evening festival. Gradually, the lively atmosphere picked up, and open-air performances entertained the crowd. Performers in unusual costumes and ghost masks enacted eerie ghost stories that captivated the children. Children joyfully ran through the streets, their laughter drowning out the voices of adults. I'm not late, am I? After their afternoon shopping, Shiraishi, Ruri, and Ayane waited at their designated meeting spot. After a while, Tsukumo appeared, dressed casually. He carried a 2-year-old child in his arms, swaddled warmly. No, there's still half an hour before our planned meeting time. Is this Tsukumo-sensei's child? He's really cute. Ayane gazed at the child in Tsukumo's arms, who, like Tsukumo, had white hair. The child returned Ayane's curious look with bright eyes. Alright, you can come down, Kakashi. Tsukumo set the child down. The child was already able to walk on his own. Once on the snowy ground, he stood there, looking puzzled. Ayane reached down to pick him up. Although he didn't cry, he sported a somewhat haughty expression, with the corners of his eyes raised. Shiraishi didn't think the kid was cute, believing the child must have some mischief in him. This child is quite energetic. Ayane said with a smile. Yes, he's always been healthy and will undoubtedly become an excellent ninja in the future. Tsukumo-sensei, it's a rare celebration today. Can't you hold back on the gloomy talk? We're trying to escape the weight of our usual missions. Apologies, it's a professional habit. Tsukumo had said that almost unconsciously, given his ability to see through the true nature of things. Ruri, would you like to hold him? Ayane turned to Ruri. No, this kid's eyes are far too arrogant. They make me want to give him a good smack. Ruri, seeing Kakashi's eyes, felt a certain level of disdain. Shiraishi nodded in agreement. He had a similar impression. If the kid grows up, and that would undoubtedly make him a troublemaker. No, I think little Kakashi's eyes reveal his spirit. Where's the spirit in that? It seems Ruri doesn't have the potential to be a good wife and mother. Ayane seemed to tease Ruri with a proud tone. Ruri snorted and spoke disdainfully, overflowing compassion only causes harm to oneself and others. She then cast a sharp look at Shiraishi, as if seeking his opinion. Alright, you two. Let's enjoy the festive atmosphere. Tsukumo intervened, sensing the tension. He patted Shiraishi on the shoulder as if to convey, I can only help so much. It was indeed complicated for young people. With his perceptive eyes, Tsukumo naturally detected the ambiguities within the trio's relationship. He sighed helplessly. Next, the four proceeded to a nearby yakiniku restaurant. This was the same place where the Tsukumo squad had initially formed. Tsukumo was nostalgic about this venue. A single meal here had cost him the entire reward from an A-level mission. Take it easy with the food. Overeating isn't good for your stomach. Before ordering, Tsukumo spoke seriously. For the sake of our health, I'm not too concerned about my wallet. After all, I'm a renowned jonin in Konoha. Just a few 100,000 ryo. Tsukumo seemed a bit hesitant. But we didn't eat a single grain of rice all day to prepare for this big meal tonight, Ayane said with an innocent look, glancing at Tsukumo. Is this the measure of Konoha's white fang? Quite disappointing, Ruri remarked with a smirk. No way, after all, he's Konoha's white fang, Shiraishi chimed in, fanning the flames. As Sakumo found himself getting teased, he couldn't help but laugh. With the exception of Shiraishi, the others weren't overly concerned about the cost. Why should they burden his wallet when he had been so careful with his money? During missions, it was essential to take care of each other, not create conflicts over expenses. Order everything on the list. After everyone had made their selections, Shiraishi called over a waiter to place the order. The waiter glanced at the ordered ingredients and their quantities, concerned about whether they could finish it all. However, upon recognizing Ayane as a familiar customer, he smiled knowingly. Not only had they selected the most expensive and finest ingredients, but they also ordered generous portions. They were indeed significant customers for the barbecue restaurant. 2 hours later, everyone had eaten and drank their fill. When it came time to pay, Sakumo looked at the sizable amount on the bill, his eyes turning slightly white in disbelief. While it wouldn't bankrupt him, it did make him wince. He realized that if this continued, his wallet would suffer from his team's expensive tastes. Thank you for your generosity, Sakumo-sensei. As she gazed at the satisfied expressions on the faces of the three, especially Ayane, who seemed to have enjoyed the meal the most, Sakumo couldn't help but shake his head. You three should think of my wallet. But among our team members, only you are a jonin. After all, you're the most powerful jonin. Indeed, someone who cares for their teammates is a qualified jonin. Thinking about it, you truly are Konoha's white fang. Sakumo found himself in a dilemma as he heard the trio heap praises upon him. Their reactions had changed so quickly. Once, they used to call him Konoha's white fang in a rather mocking tone. The shift was quite amusing. After some playful banter, Sakumo took Kakashi to another place to enjoy themselves, leaving Shiraishi and the others to their devices. By this point, it was nearly midnight, and the snow on the streets had piled up. The festival had transformed from a lively event into a quiet one, and many shops were closing up. This year's festival was happier than previous ones, thanks to celebrating it with my team. I hope we can continue like this in the future. Ayane walked slowly through the snow, her hands behind her back, her head lowered as she stepped carefully. Suddenly, she raised her head, smiled, and shared her thoughts with Shiraishi and Ruri. Of course, we can do this every year. We're teammates, after all. Shiraishi replied. Yeah, speaking of which, I really liked this year's gift, so I wanted to thank you, Shiraishi-kun. What? As Ayane brought this up unexpectedly, Shiraishi knew trouble was brewing and was about to divert the conversation with an excuse. However, Ayane leaned in and gently kissed Shiraishi on the cheek. Shiraishi, taken aback, froze in place. Even Ruri was left in a state of shock. While it's not my first kiss, this one is special because it's the mark I've left on Shiraishi-kun. It's quite memorable. So, goodbye. Ayane smiled shyly and then disappeared into the snowy night. While Shiraishi was still in a daze, Ruri, who was beside him, was flushed with anger. It was a feeling of having something dear to her heart stolen away without hesitation. This humiliation fueled her dark thoughts of wanting to destroy everything. Nothing else mattered. This. Shameless. Disgraceful. Vile. An evil woman. Ruri's face turned crimson, and she began forming hand seals, gathering chakra throughout her body. Go to hell. Fire release, great fireball jutsu. Wait. Don't cause trouble in the village. Shiraishi reacted quickly, stopping Ruri from executing the fire release jutsu. It wouldn't be auspicious for Umbu to intervene during the New Year festival. Ayane, who was some distance away, had heard the commotion behind her. However, her mind was no longer on it. She touched her lips, where she could still feel Shiraishi's warmth. This year was off to a promising start. Mid-January. The 4 members of Sakumo's team gathered at Konoha Village's gate. This mission involves suppressing an illegal organization in the Land of Fire's extinguishing kingdom. It seems there are ninja among them, making it a B rank mission, but it could be upgraded to an A rank at any moment. While it's not overly difficult, we shouldn't let our guard down. As Sakumo explained the mission, he couldn't help but notice a strange atmosphere within the team. Ayane wore a gentle and innocent smile, seemingly oblivious to the peculiar mood. On the other hand, Ruri's piercing gaze directed at Ayane made Sakumo wonder if she was about to tear Ayane into pieces. Shiraishi, what's going on with those two? Sakumo turned to Shiraishi, the most ordinary and typical member of the medical ninja. It's nothing. It's just that girls have their monthly. Ruri stepped on Shiraishi's foot hard, making him blush and go silent. Sakumo-sensei said that this mission might be dangerous, so stay close to me. I won't guarantee your safety otherwise. Ruri's threatening words left Shiraishi with no choice but to nod in agreement. Since that day, Ruri had been looking quite fearsome. It was best not to argue with an extremely angry woman. Sakumo scratched his head. For some reason, the teams running in seemed to be becoming more difficult. Episode 76. Akatsuki. Konoha, Year 40, April. Mount Mayaboku. This place was characterized by towering trees, unbelievably large stone statues, and colossal mushrooms. The air was filled with the continuous sounds of frogs and insects, giving it an invigorating sense of vitality. Minato, I'm going to share some insights about sage mode with you, declared Fukasaku, one of the two great sages of Mount Mayaboku, to the blonde young man seated before him. This young man was Namikaze Minato, a Konoha ninja and a disciple of Jiraiya, one of the legendary Sannin. As part of his contract with Mount Mayaboku, he had the option to practice sage mode, which were more powerful than regular ninjutsu. Minato had long desired the secrets of sage mode, so when he heard Fukasaku speak, he took it with the utmost seriousness. Yes. Sage mode, in essence, involved blending your chakra with the natural energy absorbed from the environment. This forms a distinct chakra system for sage mode. Once mastered, these arts can enhance your genjutsu, ninjutsu, and taijutsu several-fold, even tenfold or more. You're familiar with natural energy, right? Yes, my sensei, Jiraiya, has already educated me on natural energy, replied Minato. That's good. To practice sage mode, you'll need to learn to sense natural energy. However, don't underestimate this ability. Some individuals struggle to reach the first stage of natural energy perception even after a decade or more. For humans, sensing natural energy is a difficult task. Fukasaku acknowledged Minato's exceptional talent, but he was aware that over 95% of humans who sought sage mode at Mount Mayaboku throughout history had failed. So, this is to say Fukasaku-sama, mastering sage mode is both challenging and demanding? Minato inquired. Exactly. That's why humans who come to Mount Mayaboku to practice sage mode often receive some aid. This, for instance, is toad oil. Applying it to your body will heighten your ability to sense natural energy, Fukasaku explained, gesturing towards a nearby pool of oil. I understand. Minato eagerly anticipated beginning his journey into the practice of sage art. By the way, Fukasaku-sama, where's Jiraiya-sensei? I haven't seen anyone else since I arrived, Minato inquired, recollecting his mentor's whereabouts. Jiraiya? He went to see the toad sage. Fukasaku responded to Minato's question. Jiraiya, despite having trained in sage mode for many years, was still in the initial stages, capable of only sensing natural energy. Even at this stage, his perception of natural energy was inconsistent. To be frank, Fukasaku was considering giving up on Jiraiya, as he viewed him as a less capable disciple due to his lackluster progress and limited talent. Fortunately, he had taken on a more gifted pupil in Minato. Fukasaku believed that with Minato's aptitude, the odds of successfully mastering sage mode would be significantly higher than with Master Jiraiya. Moreover, Minato was a dedicated individual, unlikely to lose focus on crucial training. Is it the Great Toad Sage? Minato looked at the imposing structure in the distance. His mentor, Jiraiya, was also there, conversing with the Great Toad Sage, the ruler of Mount Mayaboku. A few years ago, the Toad Sage made a prophecy about the future of the ninja world. Although Jiraiya appeared confident at the time, he has grown quite impatient recently, Fukasaku divulged. The prophecy concerned a significant event involving the entire ninja world, and Konoha could not escape its repercussions. For Jiraiya, Konoha was a village more valuable than his own life and was in need of protection. He was resolute in preventing that bleak future from becoming a reality. Fukasaku, who had lived for nearly 1,000 years, remained well informed about global matters. Wisely, Minato refrained from inquiring about the prophecy. It was too early for him to be privy to such information. Even if he asked, Fukasaku might not necessarily divulge it. For the moment, Minato's purpose in coming to Mount Mayaboku was to make contact with the first stage of sage mode, in preparation for mastering perfect sage mode in the future. The land of rain. Rain poured like a river, masking the world's turmoil. A group of individuals trudged through the curtain of rain, their ears filled only with the ceaseless downpour and the icy chill it brought. They passed by a long-abandoned village, where lifeless forms lay strewn along the road. Men, women, elderly, and children, all abandoned, either starving or frozen. Thin, emaciated wild dogs had gathered around, nibbling at the corpses, only to whine softly and slump over. Who had destroyed this village and why? The truth had long faded into obscurity, as in the land of rain, such cruelties unfolded with tragic regularity. It could have been passing shinobi from a major nation, wandering mercenaries, or common bandits. The possibilities were numerous. Investigations into the truth often yielded nothing more than these frustratingly vague answers. No matter how you look at it, this place seems like a living hell, one among them commented. As they journeyed through various locales within the country, the prevailing impression was that of a beleaguered economy, internal strife, rampant lawlessness, and a populace displaced and disheartened. Desperation. Cries. Pain. Sorrow. Like an unstoppable virus, these afflictions ravaged the land, ruthlessly harvesting lives. There's no way. Even after 6 or 7 years of war, a small country like this can't seem to recover. In fact, the chaos has not diminished at all, another person observed. The little guy oppressed beneath the might of larger nations, laid bare and defenseless, a third person added with a wistful smile. Many years ago, they, too, had been natives of this country. Truth be told, even as former inhabitants of this land, they loathed it and its systemic flaws. Here, conflict, strife, theft, and death played out daily. By the way, what are the objectives that brought us here? One of them inquired. Akatsuki, another answered. Ah, the budding organization that's been making waves lately in the land of rain. I hear they seek to liberate this land and bring genuine peace, one of them remarked with admiration. They may be naive newcomers, but they're young people with lofty dreams. They underestimate the brutality of the ninja world, but regardless, their determination is commendable, and their dreams are noble. The leader has instructed us to integrate Akatsuki into our organization, their leader stated. The leader, though not bearing a forehead protector, possessed piercing eyes that could see beyond the rain's veil, and he had spotted there whoever they were looking for not far ahead. They continued onward, traversing the forsaken village, which resembled a purgatory on earth, and ascended towards the barren mountaintop using a path hewn into the mountainside. Hooded figures, their heads cloaked in straw hats, to shield against the rain and wind, marched forward, their eyes the only exposed features. I've located them, their leader confirmed. Let's hurry and complete the mission. The organization is in dire need of fresh recruits. After Akatsuki, there are others to recruit, he declared. Upon reaching the mountainside, they discovered a cave where several figures had gathered, taking refuge from the relentless rain. They belonged to an organization called Akatsuki, founded 2 years prior in the land of rain. Its members consisted primarily of young individuals in their teens and 20s. Within the organization, these young dreamers spoke freely of their hopes for the future, aspiring to transform their besieged nation and usher in lasting peace. However, bringing an end to the dangerous conflicts born of war was far from simple. Even Hanzo, a prominent figure in Amigakure, had not accomplished such a feat. Because the opening battlefield of the Second Ninja World War was set in the land of rain, the domestic economy had not recovered so far, and it is even more serious than a few years ago. In addition to these broader concerns, they also need to consider living problems and solve basic food and clothing. Their resolve to transform the nation into a better place demanded that they set a virtuous example by refraining from violence, plunder, and pillaging. Hence, their efforts primarily focused on aiding the citizens of the land of rain, though the economic conditions were dire. Often, their remuneration amounted to no more than a few morsels of food. But Akatsuki did not refuse. They accepted the meager pay for their arduous labor, taking on the most challenging tasks, their aim being to bring some warmth and light to a nation shrouded in darkness. Yahiko, we're out of supplies. When will we receive our next mission? One of Akatsuki's members lamented to their leader, a teenager. All of you, listen closely. A true ninja must learn not only to endure pain but also to endure hunger. What's a little hunger anyway? Just look at me, I'm not hungry at all, Yahiko proclaimed. As he spoke, Yahiko's stomach growled louder than the others, causing his face to flush. His fellow comrades burst into laughter, dispelling much of the somber atmosphere. They weren't truly desperate. After all, the founding days of Akatsuki were much harsher than this. At least they possessed a skill, had earned a reputation, and could contribute more to their nation. They all believed that one day, the rain would give way to sunshine. That day, they thought, would come. The country would bask in light. This unwavering belief had taught them resilience and patience, instilling in them the strength to endure the storms and overcome the odds. They were determined to resonate with the world and bring about genuine change in their impoverished nation. They yearned to see the people cease to be numb, no longer suffering, no longer in tears. Just a little hungry. Instantly, the sounds of growling stomachs resonated throughout the cave. Brothers Yahiko's got it right. Ninjas have to endure all sorts of things, so why fuss over a little hunger? Exactly. The rest of the group chimed in, their camaraderie dispelling the gloom. A girl with adorable blue hair, engrossed in folding origami, gazed at her friends who were putting on brave smiles and joined in the laughter. Sitting quietly in a corner, a somewhat unattractive red-haired boy also found himself genuinely smiling. Their mission was not just a dream, it was a life's purpose. No matter how poor or wretched their homeland, it was still their beloved country. They would never abandon it. No matter how harsh the days, they believed they would eventually come to an end. As they bantered and shared stories, the sound of approaching footsteps reverberated in the cave. Akatsuki's ninjas all turned serious, their attention fixed on the entrance. Whoever had managed to sneak up so close without detection was no ordinary adversary, or, perhaps, they had intentionally revealed their presence. The newcomers possessed considerable power. 5 figures stood at the cave entrance, their forms draped in rain-soaked cloaks and bamboo hats, leaving only their eyes visible as they observed the Akatsuki within. Who are you? Yahiko, the leader, spoke up, displaying a warm smile that didn't betray any hostility, despite the stranger's strange aura. Are you the leader of Akatsuki? Inquired the leader of the 5, his voice soft. He removed his hat, revealing an unfamiliar face, roughly 30 years of age, with white hair that looked prematurely withered. Yes, I'm Yahiko, the leader of Akatsuki, replied Yahiko, scrutinizing the white-haired ninja. There was no discernible aura about him, and he concealed his strength expertly. Powerful. Pleased to meet you, the white-haired ninja said with a friendly smile, extending his hand. Yahiko hesitated for a moment before smiling and shaking the offered hand. Though it might sound a bit odd, may I ask who you are? Just call me Bugman. Bugman, a peculiar moniker, left Yahiko uncertain whether to take offense. Did Buggy here for something specific? Yahiko inquired. Yes, we wish to gain your power, Bugman stated directly, his eyes serious and hiding nothing. Yahiko and the other Akatsuki members were left dumbfounded. Do you mean? Asked one of the Akatsuki ninjas, wearing a confused expression. The 5 of us belong to an organization. Our leader has taken a keen interest in Akatsuki after hearing about your activities in the Land of Rain. We invite you to join our organization. Following a moment of silence, Yahiko shook his head, politely smiling. I'm sorry, but we have no intention of joining any other organizations. The other Akatsuki members nodded in agreement, echoing Yahiko's sentiments. Merely spoken words weren't enough for them to join an organization about which they knew next to nothing. The situation reeked of abnormality. Aren't you interested in hearing our terms? Bugman didn't expect Akatsuki to submit so easily. Terms? Yes. Our leader understands your desire to transform this impoverished country. He's willing to provide you with weapons, food, and even assist in pacifying the chaos here. What would we have to give in return? Yahiko inquired. Given that our organization's base isn't located in the Land of Rain, upon joining, you'd need to temporarily leave the country. Later, you'd return at the appropriate time to reform the country. At that point, you'd have access to the organization's armed forces, provisions, and additional resources. I can guarantee that, Bugman clarified. Bugman adopted a businesslike demeanor, devoid of personal sentiment. He sought to convey the essence of their leader's directives. As determined as their resolve was, Yahiko and the others were resolute in their rejection. As appealing as your offer sounds, we must decline. We will not abandon our homeland. It's not a matter of abandoning the Land of Rain. It's about joining our organization to acquire advanced knowledge and critical perspectives. Later, you can return to this impoverished country and effect change with the skills you've learned, Bugman explained. It amounts to the same thing: abandonment. Our country needs us now more than ever, and we won't leave, Yahiko asserted firmly, keeping his gaze locked on Bugman. After a minute of tense silence, Bugman sighed and gave a wry smile. Very well, everyone has their own aspirations, and we won't force you. Consider these as a token of goodwill. With that, he produced a scroll and placed it on the ground. What's this? Yahiko inquired. It contains provisions and winter supplies. I understand you might be reluctant to accept charity from others, but remember, this isn't charity. It's not drawn from our organization's funds, it's my personal contribution to your cause. Yahiko looked at Bugman in astonishment. Bugman peered at the rainstorm outside and sighed. I was once a citizen of this country, but I also belong to the organization. I can't afford to be sentimental. This isn't charity, it's simply a gift to my homeland, a small token of appreciation. The expressions of Yahiko and his companions shifted slightly. Yahiko stepped forward, suggesting, if that's the case, Akira, join us, and let's change this country together. His words prompted the 4 other figures, including Bugman, to look at Yahiko with eyes that conveyed rejection. After a moment of contemplation, Bugman stated, your ideals are admirable, but I'm skeptical of your ability to change this country. You haven't grasped the heart of the matter yet. Let's leave it here. We have other tasks to attend to. With that, Bugman turned to depart. Hold on. Yahiko stopped him. What else do you need? Bugman inquired. Who is your leader? Yahiko inquired earnestly. Bugman paused, offering a smile as he replied, I can't reveal the real name. If you ever meet our leader, just address him as Doctor. Having said this, he left with his 4 companions, leaving behind a group of bewildered Akatsuki members. Doctor? Who could that be? In the ninja world, there was no record of such a figure. A code name, perhaps? Yahiko mused, stroking his chin. Evidently, this wasn't a personal name, it was likely an alias within their organization. Yahiko reached for the scroll that Insect Man had left behind, and the rest of Akatsuki looked on with curiosity. Yahiko unrolled the scroll and examined its contents for any traps before deciphering the technique inscribed upon it. Within, they discovered several heavy wooden crates securely sealed. Upon opening one, they were stunned by the abundance of provisions inside, and they couldn't help but salivate. The crates contained not only food but also an array of medicines and advanced ninja tools. For the members of Akatsuki, this is undoubtedly a timely help. Yahiko-san, how should we distribute these? One asked. We'll take a portion for ourselves and distribute the rest to those who can't afford food, Yahiko decided. While they coveted the provisions, there were many others in dire need of these supplies to survive the year. The others readily agreed. They were accustomed to hardship and had considered leaving their country to seek more stable employment elsewhere, but their love for their homeland and their desire for change kept them rooted here. After parting ways with Akatsuki, the five descended the mountainside along the ring road. They maintained a silence, silently ruminating on their failed recruitment efforts. Although they had expected that Akatsuki would likely decline, a sense of regret still lingered. They, too, harbored dreams of transforming the country, but they understood that idealism alone couldn't achieve such a monumental task. Moreover, their cause required more than just peace, it necessitated development. Akatsuki's power, as it stood, was insufficient. They could only hope that reality would impart this lesson to Akatsuki. We provided most of the supplies to the people of the Land of Rain, one of them remarked. Yes, temporary charity won't bring about any lasting change. After this year, what will they do next year? They haven't yet grasped the true nature of the challenge. But let's leave it at that. We have other duties to attend to, Bugman said with a sigh. The group continued along the road, their conversation flowing in tandem with their steps. Suddenly, one of them halted, extended a fist, and struck the rock wall with impressive speed. From the wall, a peculiar humanoid creature, seemingly coated in white paint, was forcibly pulled. It emerged with a pained groan as it struggled against the vice-like grip of the ninja. You found me. The white humanoid began, its voice cut off as the ninja clenched its throat, swiftly ending its life. What's this? Who knows? They've been surveilling us, or rather, they're enemies of Akatsuki. The ninja who had extracted the strange humanoid from the rock wall wasn't entirely sure of its identity. It doesn't resemble a typical human. Could it be a modified human? It bears some resemblance to the Doctor's modified creatures, but its life force seems significantly stronger than that of ordinary humans, and it lingers even after death. Bugman squatted down, eyeing the peculiar creature thoughtfully. Take it with us. The Doctor may find this unusual creature that appears to have undergone human transformation quite intriguing, Bugman suggested. The other four concurred with his suggestion. At that moment, the ground ahead of them began to bulge. From the soil emerged what seemed to be a human head, with eyes resembling black holes. Within those hollow eyes shimmered a pale golden light, not overly bright. The creature's mouth appeared sticky and was composed of mud, emitting a deep, resonant voice. As the five observed this even more bizarre clay-like entity, they knelt down on one knee and saluted it, displaying no fear. The creature's exposed head was but a fraction of its entirety. Bugman greeted the clay figure with a smile and inquired, "It's been a while, General Tuesday. Has the Doctor issued any new orders?" Episode 77. Graduation and Jonin. Konoha, Uchiha Clan. In an underground laboratory bathed in bright yellow light, a young man in a white hooded coat diligently worked at a laboratory table. This young man is Shiraishi. The Second Ninja World War had ended with Konoha's victory over the Sunigakure. Since then, the nations had entered an era of peaceful development and recovery. The Land of Fire's borders had regained stability, free from attacks by foreign ninjas. However, this was more than 3 years ago. Over the past 3 years, life had been relatively uneventful. Shiraishi no longer ventured to the battlefield, spending more time in the village after completing missions. This meant more time for his research. He didn't need to constantly battle various enemies on the battlefield, and his research had advanced significantly compared to 3 years ago. His knowledge encompassed natural energy, sage mode, tail beast chakra, and the use of yin style and yang style techniques, all far beyond his capabilities 3 years prior. Efficient use of natural energy allowed him to wield focused power. Konoha's formidable strength no longer intimidated him like it had 3 years ago, he faced it with composure. This was what people called growth. While Shiraishi made continuous progress, Konoha remained largely unchanged, except for an increase in the number of serving ninja and a rise in military expenses. As the ninja population continued to grow, it was likely that neighboring ninja villages began to envy Konoha. How long would this peace last? Would a new war erupt in a year or two? One thing was certain, Shiraishi would not be allowed to wait too long before the Sunigakure launched another attack on the Land of Fire. When that time came, he would finally be free from this extremely boring village. Although certain people and things couldn't be left behind, parting was a stage in life that had to be traversed. The human body stage is finally complete, and now I can attempt to release the caged bird seal. Shiraishi had spent over 3 years on an experiment that replaced chakra with natural energy as life energy. The technology was now matured, and he dared to say it was nearly foolproof. In case of accidents, it could be interrupted in time to prevent danger to life. 11 human bodies had been used to achieve this success, with none of them dying. Only one had encountered an accident, but Shiraishi's medical expertise had saved them. It seemed that natural energy could indeed replace chakra as the life energy of a human body. Though they couldn't yet discern the differences between the two, as long as they could destroy the caged bird, they would have ample time to explore the secret in the future. Shiraishi walked to a nearby bookshelf, scanning the titles before reaching for a book. I recall it being here. As he spoke, the floor near him shifted. A clay figure, with eye holes radiating a pale golden light, emerged from the ground. It locked its gaze onto Shiraishi. You've returned. Thank you for your hard work. Shiraishi stopped his book search and faced the clay figure. This was a doll he'd crafted, imbued with yin-yang chakra and natural energy at its core, along with some mystical soul-related attributes. He'd drawn inspiration from tailed beasts when creating it and had named it General Tuesday. Being only half a year old, it possessed the ability to move freely within the earth, like earth manipulation, and to meld with the earth's surface, granting it a juvenile status. Its current assistance was limited to communication with Shiraishi's subordinates and item transport. Its combat capabilities were still in development, an aspect that held promise for the future. The clay figure maintained its unwavering focus on Shiraishi, evidently awaiting his next command. Shiraishi couldn't help but wear a wry smile. Despite successfully creating this puppet, its intelligence left much to be desired. It was both dull and clumsy. It struggled with complex commands and understanding interpersonal relationships. In its current state, effective communication, even with its creator Shiraishi, remained an impossibility. That's why Shiraishi had dubbed it promising for the future. What did they ask you to bring back? Hand it over, Shiraishi commanded. The clay figure ceased its blank stare at Shiraishi. The floor rippled, expelling a letter alongside a white humanoid creature. What's this? Shiraishi picked up the letter, but his focus remained on the strange white creature, his brow furrowing. The clay figure offered no explanation, merely emitting a low, dull sound as it sank back into the ground. Shiraishi didn't anticipate any meaningful response from this low-intelligence puppet. It served its purpose as a communication tool quite competently. Shiraishi unfolded the letter, scanning its contents to discern what had happened. There were only 2 brief mentions in the letter. First, Akatsuki had declined the offer. Second, the identity of the white humanoid creature lying before him was unknown. While monitoring Akatsuki, it had stared at its subordinates for some inexplicable reason, been subdued, and subsequently sent here. Rejected? I had hoped to expand the organization's manpower. Well, I can find someone else, Shiraishi mused. Akatsuki's refusal appeared entirely reasonable, leaving him with no regrets. There were countless potential recruits. With the low entry threshold for natural energy, even individuals with disabilities could become combat-ready with the aid of artificial limbs. It was simply a matter of degrees of strength. However, once ninja with a foundation underwent natural energy enhancement, their power far surpassed that of ordinary people. The greater issue at hand was the unknown corpse lying before him. What is this entity, and where does its life energy come from? Shiraishi puzzled over the corpse of the white creature, using the term entity rather than human. Its internal structure appeared remarkably simple, more akin to a sentient vessel. It felt cold to the touch, like a corpse, but something about it felt distinctly different. The living dead? The entity that observed Akatsuki. Could it be that Akatsuki holds some rare value that draws external interest? Shiraishi pondered. He knew some details about the organization known as Akatsuki. Its members, all teenagers, had been molded by their harsh environment into individuals with unwavering determination and the courage to fight. They strove to rescue their entire nation through unconventional means, despite its seemingly insurmountable difficulties. Akatsuki had been established approximately 2 years ago, originally starting with only 3 members. Over the course of a year, it had expanded to 8 or 9 members, and in recent months, its name had begun to circulate. Yet, despite their efforts, the organization had been unable to effect meaningful change. Why would such a poor and underprivileged organization draw attention? Could it be due to internal strife within the Land of Rain? Or perhaps other nations were wary of the emergence of organizations like Akatsuki within the Land of Rain? Shiraishi briefly considered these possibilities, but soon gave up on them. He had a multitude of tasks demanding his attention, and there was no need to waste his time on matters beyond his purview. Ultimately, the affairs of others were of no concern to him. The future of Akatsuki would be determined by the unknown hands of fate. Based on Shiraishi's prediction, the prospects for Akatsuki seemed bleak. The Land of Rain was ill-suited for development, at least in the current condition. It remained a region marred by power struggles, with the three major Land of Fire, Wind, and Earth vying for dominance. Only through cooperative efforts could the Land of Rain ever hope to achieve prosperity and peace. However, the three major powers showed no inclination to collaborate in establishing a stable order in the Land of Rain. The local populace, subjected to prolonged oppression, had largely lost their will to resist. In these turbulent times, lives were lost daily, and battles raged constantly. The path of human survival resembled the laws of the jungle. The same principles applied to nations built by human hands. The weak were subjugated, while the strong reaped the spoils. The Land of Rain was just one such nation in this era of chaos, where countries held little significance beyond the power struggles within them. Early April had arrived, marking the momentous occasion when the latest batch of graduates emerged from the Ninja Academy, ready to embark on their own thrilling ninja life. At Ichiraka Ramen Shop, Team Sakumo gathered for a celebration. Too slow, today is an important day. Ruri, a slim and tall black-haired girl, stood in front of the ramen shop. Her voice was cool as she expressed her impatience at Shiraishi's tardiness on this significant day. She sported a black off-the-shoulder tights for her upper body, paired with black gloves extending over her elbows. The gloves featured hard iron sheets on the back, serving as specialized protection against kunai and ninja knives. Below, she wore a short skirt and black knee socks that accentuated her slender legs. A ninja bag was strapped to her thigh with a belt, creating an impeccably coordinated appearance. The Uchiha clan fan logo adorned her black tights. This striking figure was none other than Ruri. In the 3 years that had passed, she too had undergone considerable growth. She had ascended to the position of second-in-command within Sakumo's team, recognized as a prodigious ninja within Konoha. With arms folded in front of her chest, she wore a stern expression, her discontent with Shiraishi's delayed arrival evident. "What's the matter, isn't the time just right?" Another black-haired girl, Ayane, came to Shiraishi's defense with a smile, diffusing the tension. In the 3 years since their graduation, Ayane, too, had experienced some changes. Her figure had developed noticeably, and her attire included a custom-made kimono with a hem that allowed unrestricted leg movement. The white kimono fell just above her knees. In contrast to Ruri, Ayane wore white knee socks, similar in style. She didn't carry a ninja pouch on her thigh, and without a forehead protector, she hardly resembled a ninja at all. However, her weapon was likely concealed elsewhere. "Has Sakumo-sensei arrived?" Shiraishi inquired, not caring about Ruri's dissatisfaction, diverting the conversation to their mentor. Shiraishi held a gift bag containing several gift boxes, a testament to the special occasion they were commemorating. "He's already here, just waiting for you." "Excellent. I had a few matters to attend to, but I'm glad I could make it in time. Regardless, I haven't forgotten to bring a gift," Shiraishi stated with a smile, raising the gift bag as proof of his thoughtfulness. Ruri's mood improved upon hearing this. Shiraishi's arrival had seemingly placated Ruri. The trio entered Ichiraka Ramen, where Sakumo was seated. To his right sat a young boy, no older than 5 or 6, with the same white hair as his father. The boy donned a mask and wore a forehead protector, signifying his official graduation from the ninja school. "Long time no see, Kakashi," Shiraishi greeted. "Long time no see, Shiraishi-senpai," responded the boy, identified as Hatake Kakashi, Sakumo's son. After Shiraishi took the initiative to greet, he also responded immediately. "Here, Kakashi, this is a gift to congratulate you on becoming a genin." Shiraishi put a gift box in Kakashi's hand, which Kakashi accepted with solemn gratitude. After Shiraishi sat down, he said with great emotion, "It's truly remarkable. Despite your tender age of 5, Kakashi, you've already graduated from the Ninja Academy and become an official ninja. It's the quickest record for anyone to achieve such a feat since the founding of Konoha Ninja Academy." Kakashi nonchalantly responded, "It's not a big deal. The graduation exam was quite easy." His words reflected his natural demeanor. For Kakashi, the graduation exam's difficulty was negligible. While many hailed him as a genius, they often overlooked the hard work and sweat he invested daily to complement his innate talent. People tended to label him as a genius while remaining oblivious to the effort he put in behind the scenes. Shiraishi understood that Kakashi wasn't being modest, he was simply stating his personal opinion. Indeed, enrolling in the Ninja Academy at 4 and graduating at 5 with top marks in both theory and practical courses was a testament to Kakashi's extraordinary abilities. His achievements were so astounding that even the third Hokage had been taken aback when he applied for graduation. Konoha had a new genius ninja on its hands, a cradle of genius, as many other ninja villages referred to it. Shiraishi believed that this title was well-deserved. As the conversation flowed, Ayane asked, "What about our gift? Today's gathering is also prepared for Ruri and I to become Jonin." "Got it, it's already ready." Indeed, this gathering wasn't only to celebrate Kakashi's graduation from the ninja school and his official entry into the ranks of Genin, it was also to celebrate Ruri and Ayane's promotion to Jounin. Shiraishi presented the gift box to Ruri and Ayane, both of whom were now content. Both Ruri and Ayane have become Jounin. It seems our team is not far from disbanding, Sakumo sighed lightly, his tone tinged with regret. He earnestly wished to retain the original lineup of Team Sakumo, but the unique backgrounds of Ruri and Ayane made it challenging. They had joined his team to represent the Uchiha and Hyuga clans. It was an experience. Now that the two girls had achieved Jounin status, their tenure in Sakumo's team was naturally coming to an end. Considering their current strength, Sakumo felt ill-equipped to guide them further. The prospect of facing both of them simultaneously was daunting. It might possibly lead to his defeat. However, the knowledge that the village had gained two powerful new assets dispelled his reservations, leaving him elated about Konoha's prosperity. Thus, for Sakumo, this gathering also held immense significance as a farewell ceremony. Across the room, Kakashi presented Ruri and Ayane with gifts he had prepared alongside Sakumo. At this moment, Shiraishi retrieved the last gift box from the bag, placing it before Sakumo with a smile. He said, "I prepared 4 gifts. Please accept them, Sakumo-sensei." Sakumo was briefly taken aback but then smiled, graciously accepting the gift. He remarked, "You're as considerate as ever, and I have no doubt you'll grow into an exceptional man. I accept these without hesitation." Before Shiraishi could respond, Ayane chuckled and said, "Of course, I'm the authority in this matter." Ruri, on the other hand, wore a cold expression with a menacing look in her eyes. Ayane sat there gracefully and indifferently, unaffected by Ruri's murderous aura. "It appears you've forgotten who's in charge," Ruri retorted. "If you're frequently angry, your skin will age prematurely," Ayane quipped. Tensions briefly flared between the two. Observing the two fierce women, Kakashi patted Shiraishi on the shoulder playfully. "The world of adults is indeed colorful." "Don't talk like an adult," Shiraishi responded with a helpless glance. "Thank you for your hard work," Sakumo expressed. "It's still not cute at all. You might become unpopular if you continue like this." Kakashi had no strong opinions on the matter, his popularity was indeed average. Besides the Sakumo team members, he had limited interactions with others, even during his time at the Ninja Academy. Most people kept their distance, viewing his genius status with suspicion. Nonetheless, Kakashi shared his ambition, stating, "My goal goes beyond my father." Shiraishi teased him about his training in knife skills, to which Kakashi responded that he was still a ninja. The kenjutsu training was very painful, especially Sakumo-sensei's kenjutsu. "I have been trained before, but it was too difficult, so I didn't stick to it." "But you are still a ninja now." This assertion could not be disputed. "I'm a medical ninja. I don't need much strength. I can run away and use medical ninjutsu. The rough work of fighting isn't something medical ninjas do." Shiraishi, proud of his role as a medical ninja. He could evade and use medical ninjutsu, emphasizing that medical ninjas weren't typically involved in combat. Kakashi remained silent. In the world of ninjas, one's worth was determined by their strength. Shiraishi did indeed possess qualifications for promotion to Chunin based on his medical ninjutsu skills. However, in Konoha, medical ninjas were not rated separately. Instead, their evaluation centered on their mastery of medical ninjutsu. Unlike Tsunade, who achieved mastery of medical ninjutsu while maintaining formidable combat skills, Shiraishi had not reached such a prominent position. Next, the group wrapped up their conversations and enjoyed their delicious ramen. When it came time to settle the bill, Sakumo, while somewhat relieved, couldn't help but feel reluctant. This gathering marked a crucial turning point for the Team Sakumo, signaling the end of their financial obligation to the Queen of Gluttony. Over the past 3 years, the team had flawlessly completed 100% of their missions, including challenging A-level and even S-level missions. Their reputation had soared, making other ninja villages fearful. Many attempted to gather intelligence, seeking strategies to defeat Sakumo. However, they acknowledged the daunting task of devising a plan to eliminate Sakumo. Their team's reputation had become a source of distress for many, sparking jealousy among rival villages and prompting them to desire the elimination of these geniuses. In contrast, Shiraishi, the team's medical ninja, remained relatively unnoticed. However, he was undisturbed by this fact. Most medical ninjas were content with their role, as Konoha did not categorize them differently in terms of rank. Instead, their evaluation hinged on their mastery of medical ninjutsu, with no distinctions between lower, middle, and upper ninjas. Shiraishi had not yet reached the same status as Tsunade, who was revered for her mastery of medical ninjutsu and formidable combat abilities. Episode 78. Obito Uchiha. On the following day, Sakumo made his way to the Hokage building alone. He now set to venture forth alone. Starting today, the Hokage would assign him new comrades to form a fresh Sakumo team for mission assignments. Upon reaching the office door, Sakumo gave it a gentle knock. He entered after hearing it come in from within and closed the door behind him. Hokage-sama. Welcome, Sakumo. Sakumo, now in his prime, had concealed his aura entirely. If he wasn't in his ninja attire, he'd appear no different from an average person. The distinctive aura that Konoha White Fang typically exuded was entirely absent. Hiruzen nodded in approval. Among the many jonin in Konoha, Sakumo indeed stood out. His sharpness surpassed both the genius jonin of the new generation and those of his own generation. This diminished the surrounding pressure significantly. Businessmen and foreign officials now explicitly requested Sakumo to undertake their missions, attesting to his reputation and trustworthiness. Apologies, but the original Sakumo team needed to be disbanded. From the day I began leading them, I've been prepared for this. They are all independent ninja now. Sakumo voiced his understanding. Hiruzen shared Sakumo's sentiment. Since the formation of the Team Sakumo, they had completed countless S-level and A-level missions. Leaving aside the sole medical ninja on the team, who wasn't a combatant, the other two hailed from influential clans. They had recently been promoted to jonin and become vital assets to Konoha. Dissolving the team, Sakumo was a carefully considered decision, primarily influenced by Uchiha and Hyuga's stance. I'd like to know their future plans, Sakumo inquired with concern. Hyuga Iane will serve as the guardian for the next Hyuga clan patriarch, while Uchiha Ruri will join the Uchiha police force as a deputy captain. As for Chiba Shiraishi, I intend to place him in Konoha Hospital or assign him as a teaching assistant at the academy. Tsunade mentioned that his theoretical knowledge is exceptional, as he made no fundamental mistakes during his studies. He's an outstanding medical ninja. In recent years, Konoha had intensified its efforts to train medical ninjas. Consequently, they now had twice the number of medical ninjas compared to a few years ago during the Second Ninja World War. Yet, given Konoha's status as one of the 5 major ninja villages and its large ninja population, even doubling the number of medical ninjas from the previous figures wouldn't suffice. Both the academy and hospital faced shortages of medical ninjas. Indeed? I heard Tsunade is currently teaching at the academy currently. Yes, Hiruzen agreed, and a shadow of regret crossed his eyes momentarily, though he swiftly composed himself and continued, Tsunade just needs an assistant, and Shiraishi can fill that role. Sakumo smiled, feeling a sense of relief. He was more concerned about Shiraishi's future path than Lily and Iane's. Working at the academy or hospital would provide a stable and risk-free life. Political factors didn't interest Sakumo, who lacked any inclination towards political affairs. His focus remained on enhancing his strength, safeguarding his comrades, and executing missions with precision. This is a member of your new team. See if they are suitable. Hiruzen placed information materials about the other 3 members of the new team on the table. Sakumo picked them up and quickly perused the contents. No issues. We have a sensory ninja, a medical ninja, and a jonin for battle support. The setup isn't much different from before. As long as you agree. I've been feeling my physical condition deteriorating lately. Having a team led by you will alleviate some of the pressure. Hiruzen chuckled. Hokage-sama, you're joking, you're not even 50 yet. I'm getting there, and sitting in this office all day, my only free time is for occasional ninjutsu practice. I don't even know if my abilities have declined. Hiruzen wore a melancholic expression. As a professor of ninjutsu, you're highly esteemed Hokage, trusted by Konoha. Haha, no need to worry. I can hang on until I pass the mantle to the next Hokage. Hiruzen understood that once a ninja reached the age of 50, their abilities began to decline. Additionally, he had old injuries from his earlier battles alongside the second Hokage. Recently, he felt more and more powerless. Indeed, it was high time to consider the next Hokage. The ceremony for Hokage candidate selection would take place in 2 or 3 years. Hiruzen thought about the matter, unsure whom he should entrust with the role of the 4th Hokage. There were numerous viable options. White Fang, the Sannin, and the new generation all had many exceptional jonin, each possessing the qualifications to vie for the position of Hokage. Each of them was an outstanding ninja capable of upholding the will of fire. It was a blessing to have such an array of choices, yet it was troubling. Thinking of this, Hiruzen felt lighter. Hyuga clan. In the vast courtyard corridor, people bustled about. Leading the procession was Hyuga Hayashi, the next head of the Hyuga clan, flanked by a man and a woman. The man, in his 20s, had a peaceful expression. He was an exceptionally skilled jonin from the Hyuga clan, entrusted with the crucial role of guarding the future Hyuga head. The woman at his side, still in her teens, donned a white ninja kimono. She too was a jonin of the Hyuga clan and served as an elite bodyguard for the heir, Hyuga Hayashi. Her name was Iane. Upon completing her training mission with Sakumo's team, it was only natural for her to comply with the clan's arrangements and commands. It had been decided from the start that she would become a Dayfoot bodyguard, committed to the mission of protecting the main family, a duty she must fulfill as a member of a branch family. Although the Hyuga clan's overall strength was inferior to the Uchiha clan, the Hyuga clan was known for its strict adherence to clan rules. You two just wait here. Understood. Ain and the man nodded respectfully and stepped back, leaving Hayashi to continue alone. Further down the path, a young girl in a kimono waited for Hayashi. She didn't wear a forehead protector nor the caged bird seal, instead, she had the emblem of a branch family. It seems that the time for Hayashi-sama to succeed as patriarch is drawing near, remarked a male Hyuga jonin. What do you mean? Ain inquired. This event is a matchmaking ceremony. After the marriage, Hayashi-sama will soon ascend to the head of the family. It's a tradition within the clan, explained the senior jonin named Hyuga Fuma. He hailed from Ain's generation and possessed remarkable talent. His mastery of the Byakugan and gentle fist exceeded that of most in the Hyuga clan. Additionally, being a member of a branch family, he understood the spirit of sacrifice for the clan, which earned him a place as one of Hayashi's guards. Main and branch family had their distinctions. Most branch family members weren't taught the core techniques of the Hyuga clan, including advanced moves like the rotating heaven's absolute defense. Ain and Fuma, however, were granted permission to learn these techniques to better protect Hayashi, the future clan head. It's nothing. I heard that you performed exceptionally well under Jonin Sakumo before. Becoming a jonin at such a young age is quite impressive. Fuma said with a smile. Being a teenage jonin was rare within the talented Hyuga clan, particularly for women. I've had my share of struggles. I often had to undertake challenging missions, and I came close to death multiple times. I don't wish to return to that life. I prefer the safety of clan life. Fuma agreed with Ain's sentiments. Despite 3 years having passed since the Second Ninja World War, ninjas continued to labor during peacetime. Elite teams like Sakumo's frequently accepted at least A-level missions. However, you should exercise caution and avoid becoming too involved with outsiders, especially romantically, Fuma cautioned. Unlike Uchiha, Hyuga clan members, even those from branch families, are not permitted to marry outside the clan. And you, as Hayashi-sama's guard, hold a significant position. Fuma said meaningfully. Ain furrowed her brow as she tilted her head, glancing at Fuma. What do you mean? It's not a matter of interest, but rather your status as a branch family member. I don't wish to see an exceptional jonin like you ignored by the clan elders, Fuma explained. Ain remained puzzled. I still don't understand. You're a smart person, you surely grasp my meaning. Don't engage in unnecessary actions. Your every move will be scrutinized by the elders. Remember, this is the Hyuga clan, secrecy is unnecessary. As Hayashi-sama's bodyguard, our lives differ from those of the branch. Ain fell silent. My life has been orchestrated by the elders. My future wife is someone I barely knew, and we married hastily under those circumstances. It's the safest course of action. The same will apply to your future. Don't resist. The Hyuga clan's power is not something you can defy. On top of that, you will enjoy several benefits that other branch family ninjas cannot. Should I thank these empathetic elders for arranging my future? Ain remarked with a smile, without any anger or resistance. In her pure white eyes, only innocence shone. This is to preserve the pure bloodline of the Hyuga clan. Our Byakugan is a noble Kekkei Genkai. Genetically, we stand apart from common ninjas. I wouldn't want to hear news of your untimely death. Fuma gazed up at the blue sky, where a flock of birds soared freely. He wore a faint smile. The desire to be a free-flying bird. What a luxurious aspiration. Don't worry, Fuma-senpai. I'll fulfill the duties of a Hyuga ninja. Ain offered a warm, convincing smile. You truly are an extraordinary woman. Fuma couldn't help but comment upon seeing Ain's beautiful smile. Yet, he couldn't fathom her thoughts. Was she a monster? A sense of vigilance crept over Fuma. Working with such a woman, one could never afford to let their guard down. After completing the blind date ceremony, Hayashi let out a long sigh when he returned to his residence. A feeling of exhaustion immediately overwhelmed him. He had been practicing gentle fist and the Byakugan technique while learning how to manage the clan's affairs. Now, on top of all that, he had to build a connection with a woman he had never met before. Except for bedtime, everything had been meticulously arranged. For the first time, he truly felt the weight of the patriarch's position. He muttered to himself, it would be so much easier if Hisashi were here. He realized it had been a long time since he last saw Hisashi. But when he thought of the way Hisashi looked at him now with indifference, awe, and even hatred, Hayashi's emotions became increasingly complicated. He longed to return to the carefree days of their childhood, when Hisashi regarded him with respect and love as an elder brother, not as a stranger. From the moment the caged bird seal was planted in their family, the destinies of the two brothers diverged drastically. One became a part of the main family, while the other was relegated to the branch family. Once marked as separate, regardless of how many children they might have in the future, they would forever be divided. Only the clan's heirs had the potential to lead the clan, and even they were at risk of being separated. This situation had led to the clan's main lineage dwindling, while the number of branch families increased. Contemplating this, Hayashi felt an even greater sense of weariness. If only there were no separation system, we could be together every day. However, he recognized that this was just his personal sentiment. The clan's destiny was not subject to his personal desires. The fates of both the main family and the branch family had been predetermined from the very beginning, and no one could alter it. Please don't say that, Hayashi-sama. It is our duty to protect the main family. Hisashi-sama will eventually understand your kindness, Fuma comforted Hayashi. In Fuma's eyes, Hayashi wasn't the indifferent young master others perceived him to be, he possessed a soft and kind side. But in the face of the clan's principles, he had no choice but to appear ruthless. Following a leader like Hayashi, Fuma believed there would be no regrets in his life. The treatment of the branch family would also likely improve. Fuma-senpai, it's too harsh to say that. Hayashi-sama is acting out of love for his younger brother, Ain chimed in with a smile. Fuma, however, interjected with a calm tone, Hayashi-sama is the Hyuga's future. Our destinies have already been sealed, and the same applies to Hisashi-sama. As a member of the branch family, we should focus solely on protecting Hayashi-sama, without harboring any other intentions. Fuma, don't blame Ain. My complaints are just momentary frustrations, Hayashi defended Ain. Fuma simply replied with a respectful yes, but continued to observe Ain closely. He couldn't help but think that Ain was a dangerous woman. Hayashi-sama appeared to trust her deeply, and this made Fuma uneasy. To be honest, he didn't want to work alongside Ain. A woman who kept her thoughts so well concealed could be a liability to the Hyuga clan and Konoha at large if she were ever released from her figurative cage. How does Hayashi-sama feel about his future wife? Fuma inquired. She's a good woman, Hayashi replied. However, in his mind, he added, but she's too rigid and dull, like a finely crafted doll. Her every action adhered to strict norms, though it didn't seem forced. She appeared to have been groomed into a docile and gentle woman from the beginning. Her smiles radiated genuine warmth, yet Hayashi found himself uninterested in such a woman. His mother, the maids in the family, and even his future wife all fit this template. They resembled delicate products, produced by a factory. But there was one exception, one individual stood out, Ain. Beneath her gentle appearance lay an incredibly strong and unwavering personality, unyielding even to the clan's strict rules. Hayashi could keenly sense the contrast between Ain and the other women. She was no longer a rigid and serious Hyuga clan member. Hayashi wondered about her past experiences and what kind of person she might marry in the future. He couldn't pinpoint why, but recently, he found himself preoccupied with such thoughts. After completing that demanding task, I find myself back in this familiar place. Shiraishi remarked as he stood at the entrance of the academy. During his time on Team Sakumo, he had occasionally passed by the academy, but this was his first official visit since his graduation. However, he welcomed the change. Compared to the hospital, work at the ninja school promised to be less taxing. His only concern was dealing with the school's young and often mischievous students. What's the matter, boy? Have you returned to this place and lost your nerve? Teased a voice from behind. Shiraishi turned around, scratching his head, and replied, not at all, Tsunade-sensei. I'm just thinking about how to connect with my lovely juniors. It's good to have that mindset, Tsunade replied, approaching Shiraishi. She had grown stronger and taller since their last meeting. Shiraishi couldn't help but notice her bust seems to have increased again. She was undoubtedly a formidable jonin, and Shiraishi mused about the connection between her physical prowess and her rank. Don't fret. This isn't a battleground. Working here is much safer than being with Team Sakumo, Tsunade assured Shiraishi. Tsunade greatly appreciated Shiraishi's medical knowledge. Despite having some deficiencies, as long as his knowledge met the requirements and he gained more experience, he would make an excellent deputy, helping to instruct the newcomers. Yes, I am very satisfied with this job, Shiraishi smiled. He couldn't help but think about his previous team, Sakumo. They completed missions swiftly and efficiently, with the other 3 members swiftly dealing with any threats. Shiraishi's role was more about giving orders and offering support. Come with me, Tsunade beckoned as she led the way, and Shiraishi vividly remembered the direction to their destination. They were heading to the classroom where he had once learned medical knowledge. The experimental class had progressed through several sessions. Shiraishi was genuinely looking forward to interacting with the young and lovely juniors. The class time of the medical ninja training experimental class, in order to avoid conflict with the main class, is still after 3 p.m. and ends after 5 p.m. In the graduation exam, the passing score will be lowered for the students in the experimental class, and the usual subsidies will also be provided. There are more students in the class than Shiraishi's original class, close to 40 people. It seems that in recent years, the importance of medical ninjas has been vigorously promoted internally, and a lot of subsidies have been added, which has achieved a lot of results. There are mostly girls, and only a few boys. The boys and girls looked at the youth next to Tsunade very curiously, and they all guessed who it was. This is your senior, Chiba Shiraishi, who was also one of my students a long time ago. Now he will cooperate with me in my work. Everyone welcome him. As Tsunade's former student, he was introduced to the class as a senior, and the students warmly welcomed him with applause. Next was the official class time. Tsunade's teaching methods were far more innovative compared to what Shiraishi remembered. She had an impressive ability to analyze complex issues sharply, which greatly impressed the students. Their dedication to learning surpassed that of Shiraishi's previous students. When Tsunade felt tired, she allowed Shiraishi to continue teaching. Thanks to his extensive knowledge, he managed to keep up with her pace. Their teamwork proved effective, and Tsunade had few criticisms. Shiraishi had undoubtedly grown since their time together, and Tsunade couldn't help but smile at the thought that she had made the right decision by poaching him from Team Sakumo. He really has come a long way. Maybe with him around, I can take a break for casino and tavern visits, Tsunade mused. She considered him a perfect tool. Seriously, it's only the first day, and you've left all the work to me? Shiraishi sighed as he noticed Tsunade had disappeared from her seat beside him. Shiraishi-senpai, can I ask you some questions? A girl approached after everyone else had left. She had shoulder-length dark brown hair and a gentle smile, appearing quite cute. No problem, Shiraishi replied, readily agreeing to help her with any medical inquiries. Just as they were about to start discussing medical knowledge, a sudden commotion erupted outside the classroom door. A boy named Obito barged in, shouting, "What do you guys want with Lin? You're too close, back off." Without hesitation, Obito leaped at Shiraishi aggressively. However, Shiraishi swiftly evaded, causing Obito to crash into the wall. His shouting ceased abruptly as he slid down. "Oh, Obito!" Rin, the girl, rushed over to check the condition of the boy who attacked Shiraishi, recognizing him as a fellow classmate. "Are you okay?" "Haha, I'm fine," Obito said, trying to downplay his injuries. "This little injury is not a problem at all. Look at how strong I am. This little thing is all right." As he spoke, he immediately blushed and jumped up from the ground, doing exaggerated stretching exercises there, indicating that he was fine. "Student, were you trying to show us some gecko-like moves? Even though it's after class, you should still be careful." Shiraishi came over and looked at the boy with a headache. Appeared, the brat who often made teachers difficult when he was in school. Obito attempted to save face. Don't think I don't know your background. You're that Shiraishi who lives off others in our Uchiha, right?" The other party seemed to want to embarrass Shiraishi. Shiraishi nodded, unashamed, and said, "Yes, that's me." This admission caught Obito off guard. He seemed unsure of how to respond. "Speaking of which, you mentioned our Uchiha. Are you also part of the Uchiha clan?" "Of course, can't you see the logo on the back of my cloth?" "I didn't notice it." "Maybe you put it there yourself to pretend to be one," Shiraishi retorted. Obito's frustration was reaching its limits. He shook his fist in annoyance. Shiraishi, in turn, laid on the ground with his back facing the ceiling, seemingly unfazed by the situation. "You leech, you're truly shameless. You even set a trap under my feet." "Obito, you slipped and fell on your own, it has nothing to do with Shiraishi-senpai," Rin chimed in, frustrated with Obito's antics. Shiraishi found himself at a loss for words as he observed the scene. He couldn't help but wonder if Obito truly belonged to the Uchiha clan, or if he was simply a genuine troublemaker. Episode 79. Uzumaki. It was late April in the land of tea, within the confines of a steep and dangerous canyon. This natural terrain formed a formidable barrier on either side. In this very canyon, two groups of people clashed. Armed with kunai and ninjutsu, it was clear that these combatants were indeed ninja. The leader of one group was known as Bugman. He was part of the organization under Shiraishi's command, tasked with gathering intelligence around the ninja world while scouting for potential recruits. Their roles as bounty hunters fit them well. Not only did it allow them to collect information and seek new talents, but it also provided an additional source of income. Their growing reputation attracted potential employers, offering them various missions and access to hidden secrets. Their current assignment involved taking down an illegal ninja organization operating within the land of tea. This group, hailing from outside the land of tea, had no affiliations with the 5 major nations or any of the smaller ninja villages. They had become ninja by chance, embodying the essence of wandering ninja, without any allegiance to a specific village. Their primary means of survival was robbing business travelers passing through the area, which had led the merchants in the land of tea to offer bounties through underground channels. The goal was to eliminate this rogue ninja organization, thus restoring peace and stability to the land of T's trade routes. To be honest, this mission wasn't particularly challenging for the 5-person team. Their combined strength surpassed that of an average chunin. Not only were they physically formidable, but they also possessed heightened senses and remarkable self-healing abilities. Under Baisher's guidance, they had developed unique secret techniques. Their team was strong enough to take on at least 3 chunin-level opponents simultaneously and emerge victorious without casualties. The rogue ninja organization they were facing mainly consisted of low-level ninja, with their leader being of middle-level strength. It was, in essence, a mismatch. What's happening? One of the ninja, sporting green attire and brown hair, exclaimed as he used his arms to grasp the throat of a rogue ninja from behind. His arms ignited, transforming into flames, and the homeless man's throat was charred, causing him to collapse lifelessly. Moments later, another rogue ninja attempted to stab him in the back with a kunai. However, it was as though he struck thin air, as the impacted area turned into ethereal flames, and the assailant screamed in agony before being consumed by the fire. The brown-haired ninja showed no emotion as he watched the enemy burn. This battle was child's play to them. "Fireman, your ninjutsu is as ruthless as ever," commented a ninja in purple attire, with a smile. "I can't help it, each of us has been gifted with unique ninjutsu," replied Fireman. Emerging from the shadows cast by the canyon's rocky outcrops, a man in yellow clothing with black hair seemed pleased with his newfound abilities. Indeed, Fireman's ninjutsu was derived from the nature transformation of fire attribute Chakra, while Shadow Man harnessed the power of Chakra nature. He could seamlessly traverse shadows and was an unstoppable assassin within the team. The rest of the team efficiently dispatched their assigned enemies. "With this mission done, our team's reputation in the underground black market will skyrocket given our speed," noted one team member. "That will make it much easier to recruit new talents," added another. The successful completion of their mission, which involved eliminating the rogue ninja group on behalf of the merchants in the land of T, meant that their team had another accomplishment to boast about in the underground black market. With this continued success, their notoriety in the underground market would grow, attracting more resources and talents. "In any case, stay vigilant no matter who we face," advised Bugman, the team leader. He approached the corpses of the defeated rogue ninja, searching their lifeless forms for valuables. Occasionally, these rogue ninja carried interesting items. Though Bugman had yet to find anything substantial, he continued to scour their possessions, adding to his personal stash. After all, these rogue ninja were no longer in a position to claim their belongings. This mission had proven to be quite lucrative. "Oh?" The Bugman raised his eyebrows and reached for a scroll on the wandering ninja's lifeless body. This particular ninja seemed to have been the leader of the wandering ninja organization. The scroll, based on its texture, appeared inexpensive, yet it bore a sealing formula. Could it conceal some hidden secret? "What's inside?" one of the group inquired. "I'm not certain. It could be a trap if I don't proceed with caution," replied the Bugman. Despite the potential risks, he knew he had to open it to reveal its contents. Taking the necessary precautions, the Bugman unlocked any protective spells on the scroll, leaping back immediately to evade any potential traps. However, to their surprise, the scroll contained no traps. Instead, it held scribbled writings that suggested a plan to sell a certain secret for a large sum of money. The 5 men were puzzled, uncertain about the nature of this secret that the wandering ninjas deemed so valuable. According to the writings, they had already found a willing buyer, and today was designated for the transaction. Unfortunately, due to the ambush by the men, it seemed unlikely that this transaction would proceed as planned. "Boss, would you like to inspect this so-called secret?" one of them asked. "Let's take a look, it's not too far from here. After all, we'll need to recruit many people in the future, and even the smallest gains can be significant," the Bugman replied, a view agreed upon by the others. While their organization offered an attractive salary, it was still relatively new and required funding for various purposes. Financial resources were essential for recruiting talents, not only in ninja skills but also across various domains, including artisans, research, education, medicine, and more. They needed to swiftly accumulate resources, stabilize their organizational framework, and prepare for rapid growth. In their eyes, no opportunity, no matter how minor, could be ignored. Inside the cave, the pathway was rough, damp, and filled with the nauseating stench of poverty and death. This was the smell of poverty and despair. The 5 men were well acquainted with this scent, having encountered it frequently in the Land of Rain. The cave served as the hideout for the wandering ninja group, and it was here that they believed the valuable secret they intended to trade was located. According to the scroll, this secret was of great significance and could fetch a handsome price. Naturally, the men were intrigued by this potential treasure. However, they hoped that the secret wouldn't prove to be a disappointment. Due to the cave's darkness, the fireman ignited a wooden stick to serve as a torch, lighting their path. The cave was strewn with food waste and remnants, a testament to the hardships faced by the wandering ninjas. Is it here? The bug man asked as they reached a closed wooden door. The door featured a sealed iron lock, its top rusty. From behind the door, an indescribable stench and the smell of decay came outside. This was the only place in the hideout suitable for concealing the secret. Utilizing their perception abilities, the men detected something behind the door. Although they were uncertain about the nature of the secret, there were indications of numerous living individuals. A total of 8 people were confined within the room. Could these be companions of the wandering ninjas or captives who had fallen victim to their attacks? The bug man was a little distressed but proceeded to break the lock on the door and swung it open. The light from the torch filled the room, revealing its inhabitants. These individuals appeared emaciated, having endured prolonged abuse. Among them were men, women, and children, giving the impression of a large family. With charred lips and despairing expressions, they subsisted on meager rations provided by their captors. Each of them wore heavy ankle and wrist restraints, a clear testament to their dire circumstances. The bug man scanned the group of 8 people before fixing his gaze on a child of just a few years. The glimmer of hope and the will to live still shone in their eyes, albeit tinged with tension and anxiety. "Boss, there's something different about them compared to ordinary people," the fireman remarked softly. "Even after enduring such abuse, with minimal food and water, their vitality surpasses that of others, and they all have red hair," observed the bug man, narrowing his eyes as he realized that all 8 individuals, both male and female, possessed strikingly bright red hair. The remnants of the Uzumaki clan. He mused. It was indeed a remarkable treasure for profit. The bug man took a few steps forward, approaching the group. They emitted a pungent stench, with dirt on their faces, festering wounds, and insects crawling near their scant lunch. "It's truly heartbreaking. The Uzumaki clan, once unparalleled in the ninja world, has fallen to such depths," he lamented. Not only had their homeland been destroyed, but clan members now wandered the ninja world, living in destitution. "Why, when you're still alive, didn't you seek help from Konoha? Instead, you were captured by rogue ninjas and subjected to a life worse than that of underground rodents?" he asked, gently patting the head of the young Uzumaki clan child. The Uzumaki clan had a long-standing alliance with Konoha, even reflected in the Leaf Village's Jonin uniforms bearing the Uzumaki clan logo, symbolizing their strong friendship. With their homeland lost, their first instinct should have been seeking refuge in Konoha rather than enduring a beggar-like existence across the ninja world. There was a distress call, but they took only one person. A middle-aged red-haired man responded, his voice tinged with sorrow. The bug man's question had clearly stirred painful memories. The destruction of the land of whirlpools had occurred less than a decade ago, and for this middle-aged man, it was a traumatic event he had personally lived through. Labeled a slave of a conquered nation, he had roamed the ninja world, facing rejection and imprisonment. He distinctly remembered that Konoha had provided no aid during or after the catastrophe. Distress signals seemed to have gone unanswered, resulting only in despair. The thought of seeking help from Konoha had likely faded long ago. The bug man silently offered his condolences for the land of whirlpool's downfall. Perhaps in the future, his former motherland, the land of rain, would tread a similar path, becoming a victim of larger powers. Then, Rain's people would also be relegated to lives in darkness, much like the Uzumaki clan today. When outsiders see people from the land of rain, they too would likely label them slaves of a conquered nation. Such treaties were, in the end, mere pieces of paper, seemingly worthless. "I sympathize with your experiences. Witnessing one's homeland ravaged is a shared pain," the bug man conveyed with deep empathy. "Our organization is recruiting exceptional talents. If you choose to join us, you'll find companions here. We offer clean living conditions, safe food and water, and security. In return, we expect your loyalty. If you decline, we won't burden you, you can pursue your own path." These people appeared hesitant, their expressions a mix of hope and apprehension. Their nerves had been frayed, and they needed more than just hope after prolonged despair, they required a sense of purpose. The bug man smiled and continued, "Our leader once said he wouldn't save those who merely wish for miracles to fall from the sky. In this world, good things don't just happen by chance. While doing good, we can gain more benefits, which motivates us to continue doing good." The Uzumaki clan's bloodline and their extensive sealing techniques were undoubtedly valuable assets. Even if they were to perish, their skills would eventually prove indispensable. Whether you live as humans or dogs, there's no need to feel shame. What matters is the future. As long as you're alive, there's potential to change your destiny. Your homeland is gone, and now you're fighting for your lives. What more do you have to lose? Who among us hasn't been a homeless stray? The bug man reflected, a hint of regret on his face. War had shattered his family, leading him to a life of crime and eventually becoming a tragic, experimental subject. The memories of those years were haunting, causing him to break into a cold sweat. Fortunately, he'd learned valuable lessons from those experiences and had grown beyond his earlier naivety. This was the world, and he hoped the remnants of the Uzumaki clan would make choices they wouldn't regret. The crucial thing was to fool them into joining the organization first. Afterward, wealth, companionship, luxurious estates, and more would await them. This was the Bugman's philosophy of doing good deeds: the greater the good, the greater the rewards. Shiraishi's daily routine involved rushing to the academy to assist Tsunade with teaching students in the experimental class. This was all before 3 o'clock, to impart knowledge of medical ninjutsu. In addition to his academy duties, he was occasionally summoned to the hospital for various tasks. However, most of his time was spent quietly conducting research in the laboratory. Of course, at school, there was the occasional troublemaker named Uchiha Obito, a thorny kid who would come and pester him. It's quite scary how even kids as young as 5 or 6 can be so mischievous these days. What's important to note is that he hadn't done anything to a girl named Lin, he simply taught her some medical knowledge after school. In the ninja world, common sense often fails to apply. The more you try to use it, the more bizarre your conclusions become. Take, for example, the white humanoid lying on his lab table. This mysterious being was the same one that the Bugman and his team had captured earlier while monitoring Akatsuki. Afterward, they had sent it to him, crushed to death. After a thorough dissection, Shiraishi discovered something truly baffling: this creature could harness energy capable of rejuvenating a withered branch and causing it to sprout new shoots. Would release? And there was also a chakra signature reminiscent of a tailed beast. What was the origin of this creature? Could it be a fusion of tailed beast and would release? Although it was weak in combat, according to the Bugman, it could be easily dealt with, even without using ninjutsu. It seems Akatsuki has a problem, Shiraishi mused. Despite its combat weakness, the creature's secrets left Shiraishi bewildered. Would release and tailed beasts were legendary powers in their own right. The former represented the ninja god's power to bring stability to turbulent times, while the latter was an age-old chakra entity, immortal and beyond human comprehension. It was clear that being connected to both of these was a significant revelation. But who was behind this white creature? Why were they monitoring Akatsuki? Could this creature truly be the result of combining would-release power with that of a tailed beast? Shiraishi had a significant hunch. Could it be Konoha's higher-ups? Were they conducting secret research to resurrect would-release? It wouldn't be difficult for Konoha to extract the dormant cells from the corpse of the first Hokage, considering his unique ability. By harvesting these cells, containing would-release power, they might be experimenting on human subjects to mass-produce would-release ninja. And the creature before him might be the outcome of their research. This raised a question: why were they assigned to monitor Akatsuki, a group of only 8 or 9 individuals, all of whom were young girls who hadn't reached maturity? If Konoha genuinely felt threatened, they could easily send ANBU to eliminate them. There was no need for such elaborate surveillance. Shiraishi was troubled. There were numerous inconsistencies in his findings, but based on the information he had gathered, this theory seemed plausible. What were Konoha's leaders planning? Just as Shiraishi pondered this, the ground beneath his feet shifted, and a clay figurine, fashioned from khaki mud, emerged. Its pitch-black eyes fixed on Shiraishi. From the mud, a scroll materialized and was laid on the ground, slowly sinking into the earth. It was a perfect communication device. Shiraishi paid no mind to the dullard clay figure's abrupt departure. He had little expectations regarding its intelligence. Using a jutsu to decipher the scroll, Shiraishi immediately understood its content. The Uzumaki clan? I thought they were all extinct, he murmured to himself. After brief contemplation, he retrieved a blank scroll, added a few lines, rolled it up, and sealed it with another jutsu. Deliver this scroll to them, he instructed the clay figure underground. The clay figure re-emerged, with an almost human semblance of resentment in its empty eyes. Despite this, it dutifully accepted the task entrusted to it by Shiraishi. In just 6 months, this figure, who was merely half a year old, accomplished the incredible feat of traveling across most of the ninja world alone. It was undoubtedly the perfect tool, fully meeting Shiraishi's expectations. Episode 80. The Dark Hand in the Shadows. The police force added a vibrant touch to the rich color of Konoha. Established during the era of the second Hokage, Senju Tobarama, its ranks are filled exclusively with Uchiha clan ninjas, entrusted with maintaining public order within the village. This isn't merely a testament to the prowess of the Uchiha ninjas, but also serves as a measure of prevention and surveillance. Given that many Uchiha ninja who awaken the Sharingan tend to have unstable emotions, strict attention is devoted to their conduct. Nevertheless, owing to the formidable might of the police force and the Uchiha status as an elite Kekkai Genkai clan, even the Hokage often extends a certain degree of courtesy to them. The police force building serves as the hub of their operations, primarily populated by Uchiha clan members. On rare occasions, civilians or non-Uchiha ninja with criminal intentions may cross their path. In cases of severe misconduct, the perpetrators are sent to Konoha prison for rehabilitation. Regarding the workflow, there's typically no requirement to report to the Hokage unless significant issues arise, as the Hokage generally refrained from involvement in such matters. However, grievances have been lodged, citing the overbearing demeanor of the police force and unjust detentions. Some of these claims are genuinely valid due to neglect, while others are fueled by malicious intent, aiming to defame the Uchiha clan. Ruri encountered such mundane issues daily since joining the police force. After all, uncovering spies within the village or repelling attacks against Konoha were rare occurrences. Most of their assignments revolved around resolving civil disputes. If handled successfully, it seldom garnered praise. On the other hand, if mishandled, a flood of complaints would ensue. Furthermore, Uchiha ninjas tend to be straightforward in temperament. When provoked, they may resort to physical force, thereby attracting more accusations. It's so boring. Ruri stood on the third-floor corridor of the police building, gazing out through the windows at the bustling square below. There, two Uchiha police force members were forcibly escorting several individuals, sparking a heated argument. It's very boring, but this is what the police force has to go through every day. Especially after retiring from the front line, it is difficult to adapt to such a peaceful life, remarked an Uchiha Jonin, Fugaku, as he approached Ruri. He understood that Ruri had recently moved from Sakumo's team to the police force and hadn't yet fully adapted to her new role. Different from the exciting experiences with Team Sakumo, working in the police force indeed offered a less eventful routine. Seeing the commotion outside the building, Fugaku refrained from making comments. They had grown accustomed to such occurrences. This thankless job should be shared with other ninja clans. Our clan alone can't shoulder the burden of these rumors, suggested Ruri. Unlike Fugaku, Ruri didn't fear these pointless rumors. However, if exposed to them too frequently, she found them tedious, much like persistent flies. In Konoha, few ninja or civilians viewed these matters rationally. Individuals like Sakumo were a rarity. It wasn't that the Uchiha lacked friends in Konoha, but true friends were scarce. Some took a neutral stance, but the majority resented the police force's arrogant attitude. This was a point of contention for Ruri. If the blame were shared among all ninja, it would help alleviate the pressure on the Uchiha. Additionally, involving other ninja clans would facilitate handling civil disputes. For instance, the Inoshikacho clans or even Hyuga, another Dojutsu Kekkai Genkai clan, given their unique jutsus and abilities they would to serve well in the police force. But this is the role exclusive to the Uchiha clan, and distributing the police force's authority among other clans could provoke internal discord, Fugaku replied. As the founding clan of Konoha and the village's primary defense, the Uchiha clan was expected to retain a certain degree of privilege, transcending the status of other ninja clans. Allowing only one clan to wield such absolute authority won't diminish their standing within Konoha. People with discerning eyes won't underestimate us. As for the mediocre ones, Uchiha's strength isn't meant for their scrutiny, Ruri sees it that way. Fugaku refrained from commenting further. He knew that Ruri's proposition wouldn't gain approval during clan meetings and would likely face opposition from many clan members. By the way, weren't you on an external mission? Ruri inquired. She knew that Fugaku was currently part of the Hokage faction, forming a new team with other village ninjas for missions. I've earned a temporary place in the police force, but I return here after missions. It's much the same as before, not much has changed, Fugaku replied, sighing. I'm starting to miss being out on missions, Ruri admitted. Patience, every Uchiha ninja goes through this phase. That said, how much do you know about the Manjikyu Sharingan? Fugaku redirected the conversation to another topic. You might be asking the wrong person. I may not be as knowledgeable about the Manjikyu Sharingan as you are, Ruri responded. Ruri shook her head. Over the past few years, her encounters with Elder Sora could be counted on one hand. Partly due to missions, and partly because she felt he was growing old. He was no longer the wise elder who held a wealth of knowledge in her eyes, able to provide invaluable guidance. The incident concerning the route had especially left a mark in her heart. She felt that unless she addressed this issue, her thoughts would not be understood. Elder Sora's tone was quite strict. The reason he might not have disclosed it could be due to the extremely difficult conditions for unlocking the Manjikyu Sharingan. Fugaku nodded, offering his perspective. Presently, the available information could only support such conjectures. For example, was it even more intense emotional stimulation? The Sharingan of the Uchiha clan is the power that evolved in this way. If it weren't for Elder Sora's credibility, Fugaku might have regarded the Manjikyu Sharingan as mere legend. Ruri wasn't particularly interested in the topic. She held the belief that if the Manjikyu Sharingan couldn't be awakened, she would study Sage Mode and utilize natural energy in combat. One shouldn't be seduced by power. True strength came from making power a part of oneself, rather than becoming a puppet controlled by it. The more one explored the boundless possibilities of natural energy, the more one realized how insignificant human power could be in the face of this vast, boundless world. No matter how formidable a ninja became, they remained tethered to this world. They needed this world to thrive. People should revere the world. Alright, the person you were looking for is here, so I won't interrupt your meeting. Let's chat when we get the chance, Fugaku said, spotting something and wisely leaving. On the opposite end of the corridor stood Shiraishi. He had come to seek Ruri. In the eyes of many Uchiha ninja, Shiraishi was considered an honorary member of the Uchiha clan. A true genius. Although it puzzled many why their genius Uchiha girl had fallen for such an ordinary man, they simply had unique tastes. As outsiders, their role was to offer their blessings. After all, sooner or later, they'd tie the knot. Therefore, Shiraishi could freely enter and exit the police force's premises, typically off-limits to outsiders. Occasionally, Uchiha ninjas would greet him, and Shiraishi would respond with a smile. Some Uchihas are very irritable, their attitudes really arrogant. Others were more easy to talk to, at the very least, not constantly emphasizing our Uchiha. On the roof of the police building, a gentle breeze blew by. Ruri donned a sleek, black ninja outfit and leaned lightly against the railing on the roof's edge. She spoke first, "Are you here now because you're running low on funds?" Shiraishi was momentarily helpless, realizing this was a recurring theme when he sought Ruri's assistance. Is money really the first thing that comes to mind? Ruri had grown accustomed to this pattern. Though our funds are a bit tight, we still have enough to spend. This time, I have something else to discuss, Shiraishi explained. Go on, what's the matter? If it wasn't a financial matter, it must be something important. Bugman and the others have found some remnants of the Uzumaki clan in the land of tea, Shiraishi revealed. Instantly, Ruri's relaxed posture vanished as she locked her gaze onto Shiraishi's face. The Uzumaki clan? She needed to confirm the credibility of this information. Yes, it's indeed the Uzumaki clan, Shiraishi confirmed. Isn't it ironic? It's truly interesting, Ruri remarked, unable to suppress a laugh. Shiraishi nodded, acknowledging that he had expected this reaction from Ruri. To a large extent, the organization's establishment was thanks to Ruri's efforts. While Shiraishi held the title of manager, there was no denying Ruri's influence within the organization. In a sense, Ruri was the true leader of the organization, but she typically had no interest in managing its affairs. The irony lay in the fact that the Uzumaki clan, closely related to the Senju clan, was now in such dire need that a member of the Uchiha clan, which had a historically hostile relationship with the Senju clan, was being called upon to help them. After all, the Uchiha clan has been in a hostile relationship with the Senju clan for many years, and the relationship with the Uzumaki clan was naturally very bad. It was indeed paradoxical. The ancestors of the Uzumaki clan, once friends with the Senju clan, would likely have complex reactions if they knew about this. Ruri's thoughts briefly drifted to how the first Hokage would react upon learning of this situation. Most of Konoha's sealing techniques, including tailed beast sealing jutsu, originated from the Uzumaki clan. However, despite the Uzumaki clan's close relationship with the Fire Country, their country had been destroyed right under its nose. Presently, the Uzumaki land was a destroyed ruin, with a significant loss of life. When I was in the academy, I remember there was a red-haired transfer student in the adjacent class. Her name was Kushina Uzumaki. After her laughter subsided, Ruri's expression returned to normal, and her words came back to her. That's right. Uzumaki clan members have remarkable vitality, making them ideal Jinchuriki candidates. They also possess a powerful sealing technique for tailed beasts, which they generously shared with Konoha. Their strong vitality makes them suitable Jinchuriki, and their sealing technique ensures the tailed beast can't escape. I see. So, after their country was destroyed, she was brought to Konoha. Is this related to being the Jinchuriki for the Nine Tails? Regarding the identity of Konoha's Nine Tails Jinchuriki, it was a closely guarded secret known only to the village's top brass. Even though many had already guessed the identity, Uzumaki Kushina was the most likely and suitable candidate after the passing of Uzumaki Mito, the wife of the first Hokage. Indeed, she is most likely the current Nine Tails Jinchuriki. According to information from surviving Uzumaki clan members, Konoha did take one of their clan's members during that time. Shiraishi nodded in response to Ruri's question, recalling Uzumaki Kushina primarily for her striking red hair. Nevertheless, with the information he had acquired, he could easily piece together the puzzle. Uzumaki Kushina held a significant position within Konoha's higher-ups. Otherwise it couldn't be explained, the land of whirlpools perished, and Konoha only brought back a little girl. Except for becoming the Nine Tails Jinchuriki, there really wasn't any other purpose for bringing her to the village. Are you getting ideas about the Nine Tails? Ruri's focus on the Uzumaki clan, especially considering her past interactions with tailed beasts, led her to this conclusion. Shiraishi had acquired tailed beast Chakra on the battlefield and extracted valuable information from it, so his interest in other tailed beasts was not surprising. Though I'd love to, I'm not foolish enough to attempt such a feat. Shiraishi replied. While he wasn't afraid of Konoha at the moment, this confidence relied on the presumption that he could safeguard his life. Challenging a large ninja village like Konoha would result in defeat. Konoha had certain taboos, and the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki was one of them. I came to you not only to tell you this information, but also to discuss something more important. You need to be mentally prepared. What is it? Ruri furrowed her brow. The village's higher-ups are researching would release jutsus, and they might have made significant progress, Shiraishi revealed. In the land of tea, within an underground hideout, Bugman shared a room with one of the Uzumaki clan survivors for a discussion. Among the 8 individuals he had rescued, this was the eldest and served as their spokesperson. Having changed into clean attire, he had also washed away the plaster and the following odor, appearing much more rejuvenated. His gratitude towards Bugman, their savior, was undeniable. Over the years, he had led his family through a turbulent life in the ninja world with meager resources. Since the fall of the Land of Whirlpools, their existence had been anything but peaceful. Ironically, life had seemed comparatively stable after they were captured by those wandering ninja. Even with their daily consumption of moldy food, it was still a form of comfort. Recalling the Uzumaki clan's former glory and comparing it to their current situation, their eyes couldn't help but brim with sorrow. Regarding your arrangements, our leader has provided detailed instructions. We will assist you in integrating into the land of demons, but for now, you'll need to remain discreet, out of the public eye. When the time is right, we'll arrange for you to live openly. Considering the potential trouble caused by the Uzumaki clan's identity, the organization had no intention of drawing attention. Whether it was intelligence gathering or the establishment of strongholds, they operated covertly. That's not an issue. We're ready to remain anonymous, the elderly Uzumaki clan member agreed, finding the leader's proposal in line with their current circumstances. In the past, during the Uzumaki clan's existence, they hadn't felt this way. However, given their experiences and the hardships they had endured over the years, ensuring the continuation of the Uzumaki clan's bloodline was their primary concern now. But rest assured, this period of anonymity won't be lengthy. Your presence will also relieve some of the pressure on the Uzumaki clan. Our organization values exceptional talent. May I ask, what does this organization aim to achieve? The elderly Uzumaki clan member couldn't help but ask. Now that they had decided to accept the protection of this enigmatic organization, he wanted to grasp some understanding of its objectives. The Bugman wore a helpless smile as he replied, "To be honest, I hold a middleman position within the organization, so my knowledge of its goals is quite limited. What I can tell you is that our leader is embarking on a monumental action. For the specifics, you'd need to ask our leader. I'm curious about the answer as well." The reverence in his tone was unmistakable as he spoke. The elderly Uzumaki chose to remain silent and didn't press for further details. Seeing that his purpose was fulfilled, the Bugman had no intention of staying any longer. "You should rest here for a while. In a few days, we'll arrange for someone to transport you to the land of demons. It's a peaceful place. Hopefully, the peace there can dispel the shadows in your hearts." After uttering this, the Bugman exited the room. Outside, the 4 team members had been patiently awaiting his emergence. "How did it go?" one of them inquired. "They've already entered, and it's not easy to leave. It's no simple task to repay the organization's favor, especially when..." The leader remained an obsessive researcher. There was no way he would relinquish such an opportunity. His meaning was apparent to his comrades, who smiled knowingly. Nevertheless, these people likely have some secrets, the Bugman mused, deep in thought. "Secrets?" inquired another team member. These surviving members of the Uzumaki clan, scattered throughout the ninja world, might still possess a means of communication. Through them, we might locate more Uzumaki survivors and bring them into the organization. Are you suggesting we cast a wide net to catch big fish? That's precisely what the leader intends. In short, we're to first gain their trust. Once they witness our sincerity, even if we don't bring the subject, they'll come to us, requesting information about the other Uzumaki survivors, allowing us to rescue their kin from their suffering. When dealing with ordinary individuals, the Bugman wouldn't be overly concerned. However, the remnants of the Uzumaki clan were an exceptional case. Consequently, the trust between both parties was of utmost importance. Directly inquiring about the whereabouts of the remaining Uzumaki members could easily provoke resentment and erode the meager trust painstakingly built. In a dark, damp cave, an astonishingly vast chamber spread out before the eye. This space was entirely sealed, devoid of any discernible exits. Seated in a wooden chair crafted from trees was a frail elderly man. His face was deeply lined, his hair gray, and even while seated, he appeared hunched. Long, white hair covered his right eye, leaving only his closed left eye visible as he sat peacefully. Behind him stretched a white, strip-like object. On the far end of this ribbon, it extended into an endless darkness, with huge trees and fruit shadows can be vaguely seen. Before long, the ground in front of the old man slightly trembled, and 2 pale-skinned humanoid beings emerged from it. The old man kept his eyes closed but seemed aware of their presence, asking, "Have there been any new developments?" The old man's voice sounded ancient, yet it held a compelling presence, dominating the surrounding darkness. No, the white Zetsu responsible for monitoring Nagato suddenly disappeared for some reason. The other white Zetsu searched extensively but couldn't locate that Zetsu, one of the white humanoid figures reported to the old man. "Madara-sama, is it possible that Nagato detected the white Zetsu and eliminated it?" speculated the other white Zetsu. Madara responded sternly, "Fool. Based on our past intelligence analysis, Nagato's Rinnegan is still far from mature. Given Nagato's current power, he lacks the capability to sense white Zetsu. However, apart from Nagato, none of his other associates could. Detecting white Zetsu's presence is nearly impossible," the white Zetsu said, puzzled. "Even a sensory ninja might struggle to detect white Zetsu unless using specialized sensory ninjutsu or possessing an exceptionally powerful dijutsu, such as the Byakugan. For them, white Zetsu was considerably more elusive than typical sensory ninja targets. Continue to monitor Nagato and have Guru join the operation. Furthermore, dispatch some white Zetsus to Konoha," Madara ordered. "Konoha? Does Madara-sama suspect Konoha and those individuals?" one of the white creatures asked. "It's not solely because of white Zetsu's disappearance. I don't have much time left. Nagato alone cannot further the Eye of the Moon plan. I need an emissary who can act in my stead." "Go," Madara declared. Though his tone was dismissive, it carried an undeniable air of authority. "Yes, Madara-sama," both white Zetsu acknowledged. Once they left, the elderly man opened his left eye, revealing a scarlet three-tomo Sharingan, which shone brightly in the dim surroundings. "Hashirama, the future you envisioned has no place for peace. This time, I've won this time." In the darkness, the Madara sighed with regret. Nonetheless, his words held no audience, for the man he had cherished throughout his life, both as an enemy and a dear friend, no longer existed in this world. He gently raised his hand, lightly touching his chest, where the wound inflicted by that man still ached. The pain felt as though it had occurred just yesterday, tinged with a trace of nostalgia on his weathered face.